Tonight, David Muir reporting.
We take you inside two cases. A mother just 19 years old.
She was trying to protect her daughter. She fought like hell.
Another case into a beloved teacher, her whole future ahead of her.
Mysterious cold cases.
It gives you chills even today.
Yes.
What links both of those cases is the cutting-edge forensic technology inside this lab.
It sounded like science fiction at the time.
Can they be solved?
You'll see it unfold right here as they unmask the killer in both cases.
Catching the killers on tonight's 2020, The Codebreakers.
Tonight, we take you inside two cases. Two young women, both brutally murdered in their homes. The killers in each case evading police for decades. In one case, a mother just 19 years old, she was engaged to be married.
Her fiance, who was about to marry her, adopt her daughter, he gets home and he immediately notices something is wrong. There's blood smeared on the stairway.
The killer had attacked her in the bedroom.
There was handprints of her trying to hold the door closed, and she just wasn't strong enough.
Another case in Texas, a beloved teacher, her whole future ahead of her.
Drove in to Memphis.
She just started a new school. She was loving teaching her students. She was in a very good place.
911, what's your emergency? What's going on?
Oh, she got murdered.
What did your daughter do?
She's been murdered!
You remember walking in and what you discovered.
I remember walking into the bathroom and seeing her body on the floor.
She'd been handcuffed.
That's correct. She had been handcuffed with her hands behind her back.
There were about 36 different wounds on her body. She put up a fight.
Of course, the question, who would want to kill each of these women? The mystery behind their murders would torment their loved ones for decades.
They've got handprints, they've got footprints. Why are they not finding this person?
It was like the talk of the town forever.
And for the detectives who were working these cases, frustrating dead ends.
There was also a suspicion, could it have been a member of law enforcement?
Right, there was no forced entry, so our speculation was that it was somebody that she knew or somebody that presented a position of authority that could have garnered that trust to get inside the apartment.
All of these questions lasted for years and years.
Yes. Yes.
Both of these brutal murders were cold cases for decades. And what links both of those cases all of these years later is the cutting-edge forensic technology inside this lab. Tonight, you'll see it unfold right here as they unmask the killer in both cases.
It's the first week of December 1988. 19-year-old Kathy Swartz is home with her 9-month-old daughter. In Kathy's living room, a tree decorated and ready for the first Christmas for her little baby.
She was living with Mike Warner. They were, setting up their life, although he wasn't the father of the child. They were a couple and they were trying to make their way.
He definitely came in and kind of was her knight in shining armor. They were a happy little family.
Mike got up around 5:30 in the morning for his job.
He gets home at 3:30 and he immediately notices something is wrong.
Things were in disarray. Blood up the banister. And then in the bedroom was Kathy, very bloody, unclothed mostly.
He would later describe it, it was like the walls were painted with blood.
Mike is so distressed, he immediately runs to a neighboring apartment because he can't bring himself to call the police. Mike does go back into the apartment to find her daughter.
Kathy's baby, who's 9 months old, dressed in pants, a shirt. She has one sock on. Her diaper looks like it's been recently changed. She was standing up in the crib when Mike walked in.
This is that baby left standing alone in that crib all those years ago. She's now 36 years old.
How was your mother described to you?
Beautiful, happy-go-lucky. She did love like AC/DC, Metallica. She was like a little rock and roll girl. And everybody tells me that I was like her whole world.
So you were 16 years old when you read the police report.
Mm-hmm. It was awful for somebody to do what they did to her, knowing I was in the crib right next door. I just couldn't believe that somebody could do that.
So detectives had questioned at the time whether or not this suspect had changed the diaper.
Yeah. When the police got there on scene, I was dry, I didn't have a dirty diaper on, and it was some hours I was alone.
So one of the first things that investigators notice is that there doesn't seem to be any sign of forced entry, which again suggests that she knew the person who came in and killed her.
She was very good about locking her doors. I would call her and I would say, hey, I'm gonna come over. And I would go to her door, it was locked, and I would knock, and she would, who is it? And then she would let me in.
We theorized that the assault started in the kitchen because in the kitchen there was passive blood drops on the floor. And then the smearing goes up the stairway to the upstairs bedroom.
There are defensive wounds found on her hands. Her throat has been cut in multiple places. She's been strangled.
She fought like hell. She was trying to protect her daughter, and she did.
And the idea that this happened and you were just a couple of feet away.
Yeah. Makes me mad that I wasn't old enough to help her. I'm 100% convinced she was trying to save her baby. Because I feel like she would have just ran outside and yelled, but I was upstairs. And she wasn't gonna leave that apartment without me.
In the bedroom where Kathy was found is a phone on the bed. The phone cord was cut, but on the phone there was Kathy's fingerprints, and then there was also an unknown fingerprint in blood. In '88, obviously, DNA was in its infancy.
The fingerprint on the phone, how significant?
Very significant, because they were in actual blood, and it was not my mom's.
There is a bloody footprint in the bathroom. It looks like the suspect took a shower after the murder to try to maybe wipe the blood off, clean up. But in the process of doing so, he left behind a left footprint, size 9, in blood.
And then the person left without being seen and without being discovered.
It was very unsettling that something like that could happen. It just didn't make any sense. None of it made any sense.
But when crime scene investigators passed through that gruesome scene again, this time with a new forensic light source, they find a new clue, and one that was imperceptible to the naked eye.
It was like a great big neon clue. It's like, holy smokes.
South Lanes is a bowling alley in Three Rivers, Michigan. It's the social epicenter of this small town where Kathy Swartz's father ran the pro shop. After her brutal murder back in 1988, it also became a place that connected Kathy's daughter, Courtney, to her mother.
I grew up in the bowling alley. I spent a lot of time there. I was raised by my grandparents. They tried to fill the void as much as they could.
What were you told about your mother's absence when you were a little girl?
About first grade, they had told me that a bad man had hurt my mom and she was up in heaven. And when it would thunderstorm, they would tell me that that was my mom up in heaven bowling a strike. So it was pretty cool watching the thunderstorms as I was little, because I'm like, oh, she must be bowling pretty good today.
Your mother's best friend, Jennifer, has told you a lot about your mom.
Yes, she has.
Kathy and I were very good friends. I've known her since grade school, so we've been friends a long time. Kathy was like somebody you could count on. She was a good listener, always there for you, just a, good person.
Childhood friends Kathy and Jennifer both found themselves pregnant as teenagers and formed an unbreakable bond. They would talk on the phone several times a day until December 2nd, when Jennifer couldn't get a hold of her best friend.
A police officer came to my apartment and he asked me to go to the station. I remember him asking me questions, do you know anybody that would want to hurt Kathy? Along those lines. And I finally just was like, what's going on? Is Kathy okay? And he told me, and I don't even remember. I know that the first thing out of my mouth was, is Courtney okay? Where is Courtney?
I do remember pictures of our first Christmas tree, and she had presents under there for me, but she never got to give them to me.
We can see it's the pain you still carry with you. They were a young family just starting out. Kathy and Mike Warner had only been engaged about 3 weeks before her brutal death. And since he was the one who found her body, of course, police would have a lot of questions for him.
When the police initially interviewed him, he had this kind of flat affect to his voice. He didn't seem to be all that upset that she was dead. He didn't get emotional, and that seemed very suspicious to police.
I can't imagine, walking into that scene and what that does to somebody.
There was polygraph examinations that were done with. We were able to verify that he was at work in Sturgis all day long, and there was no way he could have came back to Three Rivers to do it.
I had no doubt in my mind that he didn't have anything to do with this. I knew it in my heart. No, he loved her. She and Courtney were his world.
I go by Judge Jeffrey Middleton now, but at the time of this, I was Chief Assistant Prosecuting Attorney. We would have maybe one homicide a year, not a young woman killed alone in her apartment during broad daylight. At that point, they were leaving no stone unturned.
So the police department actually rented the apartment for a month after the crime, just so that we could return and continue to look for clues and process. This is one of the first cases where they deployed alternative light sources.
They went into the crime scene with a black light.
On the refrigerator, they noticed 2 pieces of writing. Metallica was written on the refrigerator, and Harley was here. These were inexplicable writings that apparently had been erased.
And we found that someone had written on her body, probably in magic marker on the inside of her thigh, and said, "I was here," with an arrow pointing up toward her groin. That was not visible to the naked eye.
And when detectives speak to Kathy's friends, they hear about an ex-boyfriend named Troy Schultes. It turns out he had a nickname, Harley, which of course got their attention. He was a huge fan of the band Metallica.
In fact, he has a Harley-Davidson decal on his truck. The truck was spotted outside Kathy's apartment that very afternoon of her murder.
Well, that's who I told them to look at and, to question. I know a lot of other people did too. I don't know how to really describe it, but it was not a good they were not good together.
When they further look into him, he doesn't have an alibi for that afternoon. So he immediately becomes their #1 suspect. They pick him up for questioning.
Troy Schultes admitted that he was the one that wrote on the refrigerator and on the wall in the apartment, but he never admitted to writing it on her thigh.
And he said, well, I didn't do it.
And still with no solid alibi for the night of the murder, police zero in on Troy.
I thought, that's got to be it. Because again, it's got to be somebody she knew, somebody she trusted.
And before long, an arrest in the Kathy Swartz case is announced. But if investigators think they've got their guy, a rude awakening is ahead.
Kathy Swartz's daughter, Courtney, the baby left standing in her crib after her mother was brutally murdered, is a mother herself now.
Why are you breaking everything?
And she and her 4 children have stayed in Three Rivers, Michigan, finding comfort in a mother that she lost when she was just a baby.
I do bring the kids out here for like holidays, her birthday, but I also do come out here a lot by myself too.
Back in 1988, police believed they found the perpetrator who brutally murdered Courtney's mother, the man whose nickname was scrawled across her refrigerator, her ex-boyfriend, Troy Schultes.
You know, you look at that and you think, well, that's somebody leaving a calling card behind that they were there.
Without any kind of solid alibi and now under a cloud of suspicion, Troy is arrested, he's charged, and he pleads not guilty.
We had the fingerprints, but we also had a sample of blood that was left behind. We believe because Kathy fought back that whoever the killer was had sustained an injury, and Troy's blood type did not match.
They take fingerprints and footprints from him, and those prints also do not match.
So the charges were dismissed. As it turns out, he was wrongfully arrested and wrongfully charged.
So with the investigation now back at square one, the Three Rivers Police Department, they refocused on matching the fingerprint and the footprint found at the crime scene to the killer.
We had fingerprinted and footprinted so many individuals that had been living in Three Rivers at that time, and none of them were a match.
I thought we would solve this quickly. So the first month passed, we didn't know, 3 months passed, a year passed, and it wasn't solved.
Police even looked at similar crimes that had taken place elsewhere in the area. They took fingerprints, footprints. There was no match.
And the case got colder and colder.
And as DNA technology improves, law enforcement, they continue to work the case.
We fast forward to 2012. We're going over the evidence again. The fingerprint that they had found on the phone was in the suspect's blood, and it was still in viable condition to obtain a DNA profile from that. And we've entered it into CODIS. We think that's going to give us a hit. And of course, it doesn't.
As the years continue to pass, the mystery and the collateral damage for this whole community only grew. The town was haunted by this. Did you feel the eyes of the town on you as you were growing up?
Yes. And I was the baby, so like everybody wanted to take care of the baby, and you know, like it's still that way.
When you don't have answers, you just have questions all the time. But it definitely changed me. It really changed me. I slept with a machete under my mattress for years.
So every December 2nd represents another year without justice for Courtney and her grandparents.
Today, the family is together remembering Kathy on the anniversary of her death.
It's hard. Real hard.
I felt a certain point that I wasn't sure that they would ever find out.
Probably right there, before she died.
It's been 25 years, but remembering hasn't gotten any easier for David Swartz.
I think, yeah, probably the worst thing for me is the why. Why? Why did it have to happen like something like that?
When you look at these kinds of cases around the country, there is generally an investigator or a detective who never gives up.
Yes.
And in this case, it was Jeffrey Middleton.
Yes, he's a great guy.
What was it, do you think, that kept him going on this case for so long?
He was young, just starting out, and this was really the only cold case in our town.
I spent more time on this case than any other case in my entire career. Sometimes in later years, I would pretend I was on vacation and lock myself in the library and just go through this file. As Courtney got older, she would call me sometimes and ask if I knew anything, and I never had any answers.
Police have DNA, fingerprints, and a lot of physical evidence. What they don't have is the person who murdered a 19-year-old Three Rivers woman in 1988.
Here's a lot of the evidence right from property.
Eventually, the Three Rivers Police Department decided to partner with the Michigan State Police. They're convinced that with advances in DNA testing technology, that the Kathy Swartz case can finally be solved.
In Kathy's case, we had DNA that was in CODIS, and we had not gotten a match. We had exhausted, the fingerprints, and these things which normally get us a hit did not. So I honestly felt like the genetic genealogy was our only chance for solving this case.
And then 3 years ago, Othram, a forensics lab in Texas, now enters the picture. Promising something everyone close to the Kathy Swartz case has waited decades for: answers.
Othram uses DNA technology to help identify victims and perpetrators when law enforcement cannot.
They knew that it was an unknown male contributor to that DNA, but they didn't know who it was.
But all these years later, they said, well, look at this and see if there's something you can do with it. And you were convinced you could?
We were absolutely certain that we could help the Michigan State Police work this case.
They said, we'll get you a lead back. We're not going to guarantee that it's the lead, but we'll get you a lead.
They had over 1,000 suspects. All of a sudden, it's narrowed down to 4.
It was our breakthrough.
In 2022, a package containing DNA, that single bloody fingerprint from Kathy Swartz's pink phone, arrives right here at this building just north of Houston. To the outsider, it looks like just another office building, but what's actually happening inside, in these labs, is now changing how investigations across this country are being solved. This is the headquarters of Othram, a cutting-edge forensics lab that's been mentioned in some of today's most talked-about criminal investigations. And Othram has been credited by law enforcement with helping to solve cases that have been unsolvable for years now.
How are
Hi,
you?
it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
How are you?
Yeah,
Thank you. Welcome to Othram.
David and Kristen Middleman are the husband and wife team behind all of this.
Everything you see on our right side will be forensic. Everything you see on the left side will be research. Not every case is suitable for DNA testing right now. Burnt remains, exploded remains, really difficult to make sure. But we hope that one day we live in a world where every case can be suitable for DNA testing.
So you'll hold on to remains for a while and keep trying.
We don't give up ever.
The Middleman's partnership, both in work and in life, actually began over a few blind mice. It's the year 2000. You've just started your PhD at Baylor. You're doing a study on mice.
I was.
And there was another young scientist.
David, yep. So our projects collided, and he actually cured my blind mice. So I thought, wow, if this guy can do that, I think I'll marry him.
David Middleman had worked in biomedical research for years before realizing that law enforcement was relying on a limited form of DNA testing. He knew that better technology was available, but said it just wasn't being widely used out there.
It sounded like science fiction at the time. This way you could take decades-old DNA, put it into a genealogy database, build a family tree for your suspect, and then that takes you right to his door. That was pretty amazing.
You start to think, wow, this is really an unused tool here for law enforcement.
Yeah, it felt wrong that there were tools available, and yet there was this piling up backlog of cases that were unsolved.
So at one point, you turn to Kristen and you say, I want to start my own lab.
His words were, let's build a forensic lab of the future. And my words were, what? Who's going to give you evidence?
You thought from the very beginning, who's going to trust us with this?
100%. I said, I don't think people will come. And he said, well, I'm going to build it and we're going to see.
Within a year, he was solving cases almost every week. And the more cold cases they closed, the more publicity they got. and police departments around the world started sending them cases. It's just grown exponentially. In terms of publicly announced solves, Othram is #1 in the world. That includes homicides, rapes, unidentified bodies that they've been able to give names to.
And Othram's reputation now for cracking these cold cases using DNA evidence and forensic genetic genealogy is what actually led Michigan detectives to send that 30-year-old DNA to this lab.
In the Kathy Swartz case, this DNA was how old when it got here from that pink phone?
It was decades old, and in spite of being so old, the DNA was still intact and usable for testing.
So you knew right away this was suitable, and this was just his DNA, the suspect's.
Yeah, the DNA was a single unknown male contributor. It's a small sample, but in spite of that, there's anywhere from hundreds to thousands of cells worth of DNA.
So if you touch David's hand, how much DNA, how many cells have you left there?
Hundreds of cells.
Hundreds of cells on his hand, and sometimes you're dealing with 10, 15.
Even less.
From years ago.
Yeah.
And still able to solve the case.
It's a very, very sensitive technology.
In this Kathy Swartz case, you've chemically labeled all the different parts of the DNA in this room right here, and what do you do with it from there?
It is now ready to actually be read. This particular DNA sequencer is one of the most powerful sequencers
This
on
here
Earth.
with the green?
Yes.
Give me a comparison to what authorities used to have to deal with. What would the DNA sequence reveal versus what you can reveal with the DNA sequencing from this machine now?
Sure. So for the last 30 years, people have used a different kind of DNA testing technology that can measure 20 data points in the DNA. This machine actually can read out the entire sequence. So whereas you might get 20 data points in the earlier versions of this technology, this machine could give you anywhere from 100,000 to 1 million data points.
100,000 to 1 million?
100,000 to 1 million data points.
So now that you have this sequencing that they just didn't have access to years ago, in this particular case, for example, what do you then do with that?
So with the data file that comes out that might have 100,000 to 1 million DNA markers, you can do a lot more, including genetic genealogy and that search for distant relatives.
You're taking what in many cases is a very old DNA sample from these cold cases. You're expanding the DNA sequence, but you're also able to take that information now and put it up against vast public data now, because families and relatives and third cousins and fourth cousins have put all of this information out there, and it would seem that this might unlock cold cases everywhere.
Correct.
At that point, Othram's in-house genealogy team takes over to build a family tree for the suspected killer of Kathy Swartz.
These types of crimes going unsolved have a ripple effect across society, not just the victim and the family not having answers, but the law enforcement that worked the case for decades, consumed by a case they can't solve.
Finding those investigators and then gaining their trust is what Othram says has been critical to their success in helping to crack these cases. In those early years, you have no background in law enforcement. Are you essentially making cold calls to police stations?
I spent my time almost exclusively talking to law enforcement.
You live in Texas, and you know if you want to land a case in Texas, you got to get to the Texas Rangers. But how did you convince them that we've got a tool here?
Well, the one that I've done the most work with is Ranger Brandon Bess.
Brandon Bess is almost out of central casting for a Texas Ranger. He's this imposing man with his white hat. When David Middleman founded Othram, nobody had heard of them. And when Bess visited in 2019, he was really kind of taken aback.
David walks in this room, and it's to speak to David's confidence in that he's wearing a t-shirt that's about 2 sizes too small. He's wearing jeans that have holes in them. It looks like he hadn't slept in 14 days. His hair standing up. I have instant respect for him because I can tell this is a guy that doesn't give up.
Bess came away impressed. He heard about the opportunity to solve a cold case, and he thought, let's team up.
And he had one case in mind. They told me it was the most heinous thing that had ever happened that was unsolved in Beaumont.
That other case, that young school teacher, 31-year-old Catherine Edwards.
911, what's your emergency? Get me the police, please.
What was unique about this case?
The victim was a school teacher, well liked by everyone. And there was no sign of forced entry. So it's a very odd situation. It didn't add up.
This is a crime of violence, a crime of passion, a crime of control.
It gives you chills even today.
Even today, yes, even today.
Either it was someone that she knew or someone that presented themselves as an officer. It was almost like whispered in the hallways, it could be one of our own.
So on January 14th, 1995, the Beaumont Police Department gets a 911 call from a man at a townhouse in West Beaumont.
Oh, Jesus! 911, what's your emergency? Oh, get me the police, please.
He had found his daughter in the second floor bathroom, slumped over the tub.
Okay, ma'am, what's going on there? Our daughter has been murdered. Okay, what happened, ma'am? We came over here and found her. She's handcuffed. She's been tortured. Please send someone. We're sending someone. Don't hang up, all right? Okay, is there anyone else in the house? My husband is here with me. Okay. We found her.
That woman was Catherine Edwards, and she's a teacher at a local elementary school.
She was supposed to have plans with her sister and family for lunch. When she didn't respond by phone call, they went by her house and found that her car was still there. Got inside the house with a key.
Her father said he grabbed her and pulled her over and rolled her over to look and see if there's anything he could do. He was crying hysterically.
Get the police and an ambulance.
To listen to the emotion in those calls, you know, just gut-wrenching. In my 30-plus years, I'd never heard anything like it.
Dad covers her with a towel. Police show up. There's one officer by the name of Carmen Brown. She shows up first, and she secures the crime scene.
And that officer, Carmen Brown Apple, says the memory of her entering Catherine Edwards' townhouse has played over and over again in her mind for decades.
You remember walking in and what you discovered?
I remember walking in and going up the stairs, looking first into the bedroom that was very much in disarray.
What did you find as far as the bedroom and the bathroom?
Bedroom, there was looked like there had been some type of tussle in there. Things had been knocked around. Sheets were partially torn off. A portion of the bedpost had come off. And then walking into the bathroom and seeing her body on the floor.
She'd been handcuffed.
That's correct. She had been handcuffed with her hands behind her back.
When her mother said her name,
Yes.
you thought, I know her.
I know her. I went to college with her. We were in sororities together. She was so full of life and so friendly and so nice. That just always stuck with me. To come to the scene and then suddenly realize it was Mary Catherine, it just knocked me for a minute.
It gives you chills even today.
Even today, yes, even today.
She is not your typical victim by any stretch of the circumstance. It was an extremely unusual case.
Catherine and her twin sister Allison grew up in Beaumont. They're part of a close-knit Presbyterian family. They both attended Forest Park High School and then Lamar University, which is in Beaumont. And they both became school teachers at the Beaumont Independent School District. Catherine and her sister were extremely close.
When you talk about Mary Catherine and talk about Allison and look at them, I mean, they are identical twins. You can't tell them apart. They both had students come up to each other in the grocery store thinking they were the other twin.
Investigators learned that her sister Allison was likely the last person, aside from the killer obviously, to see Catherine alive. Allison would tell detectives that her twin sister arrived at her house after work to pick up her beloved beagle, Maggie.
She came by, visited with her sister, went home. From what we can tell, she had had a glass of wine and just kind of was relaxing and about to go to bed. And I think the last time she was heard from was about 8 o'clock that night.
One of the neighbors told police that he heard someone clomping down the stairs overnight on the night of January 13th.
There was a 12-year-old boy and his dad that were staying with some friends that was right next door to Catherine Edwards' townhome. He heard somebody run down the stairs and then a door slam, and a little while later a car sped off with loud music. There were some other neighbors that heard some loud banging.
It lasted for 60 to 90 seconds. And they said they never heard a scream, so they just figured that something else might have been going on. They had no idea that there was a murder taking place next door.
Crime scene investigators found that there was no sign of forced entry, which is significant because it either meant that Catherine had kept her door unlocked or had potentially recognized her killer and let him in.
Of course, in these cases, it's standard procedure for investigators to look at those closest to the victim. And really, from the beginning, her ex-boyfriend is seen as a prime suspect. But critical evidence from the scene actually points in a different direction.
The crime scene investigators at the time also collected a lot of evidence from the house, and one of those pieces of evidence being the bedspread.
Investigators found semen on Catherine's bedspread and from the rape kit.
We've got some DNA here. Now we just got to match it.
The DNA actually doesn't match her ex-boyfriend, and he's now cleared in the case. And there are no matches to the DNA in CODIS, which is the National Criminal Offender DNA database, either.
Police were really stumped. They tried every avenue they could think of, but every avenue hit a dead end. One of their initial theories was that the killer had some sort of law enforcement background. The handcuffs were Smith & Wesson. That's a popular brand with law enforcement.
They were trying everything they could think of. They really did. They went and tracked down sales of handcuffs in this area, receipts.
All members of the Beaumont Police Department were tested. There were no matches.
It kind of sent a panic through the community. You know, if this can happen to somebody in a really quiet part of town, could it happen to them, kind of thing.
It went from a rumor to just spreading like wildfire throughout the community. Everybody wanted to know, was this a one-time deal? Was this a serial killer?
The case would go cold for decades, and obviously it's just one of hundreds of thousands of unsolved murders in this country. But then in 2020, two investigators, Ranger Brandon Best and Beaumont Police Detective Aaron Llewellyn, decided to take a fresh look at the case. At the time, Bess had just been connected with this new lab called Othram, and Detective Llewellyn knows that there's DNA that's actually available to test in this case.
But when Brandon presented Othram to me right then and there, I'm like, let's make this happen.
We believed that was going to be our only hope.
The last hope for answers, the DNA evidence from the murder of that elementary school teacher, Catherine Edwards, is now headed to Othram for testing.
Bloody fingerprint left on a phone and a footprint.
And in the case of that Michigan mom, Kathy Swartz, what new lead is about to be uncovered right behind this glass? You'll see right here tonight how both cases are about to crack wide open, sending investigators across this country to find the killers they've been searching for decades.
The person that did it was in the 10,000 pages of police reports. You have all these puzzle pieces, but if they don't all fit together, you don't see the picture.
I want you to think about the next words that come out of your mouth. I want you to think very hard about that. We felt like we had a home run right then and there.
And they said he was like a godly man down there.
I was like, wow, we're gonna get some answers.
Tonight, two horrible murders.
I just felt awful.
And now a survivor who lived to tell.
I was just like, I can't tell him. I'll never tell anybody what happened.
What did your daughter do? She's been murdered!
It gives you chills even today.
Even today.
That someone had written on her body, on the inside of her thigh, and said, I was here.
But only one way to solve them after years of going cold.
I honestly felt the genetic genealogy was our only chance.
But all these years later, they said, well, look at this and see if there's something you can do with it.
It's his fingerprint, it's his bare bloody footprint, and it's his DNA.
It turned into a massacre.
The floor goes out from under you. I'm like, like, no way, this cannot be happening.
He said, your sister's dead, your sister's dead.
There's two people that know that story. You're one of them, and she's the other. And she can't talk.
Without the DNA, the story doesn't matter.
That the two of them were able to go back and look at that evidence.
Yes.
From when you were a 9-month-old baby.
Yes.
In the crib, just a few feet from your mother.
And there was a moment like, oh, this is our guy.
For some families, you are the last hope. Was the killer? For years, you were haunted by that question.
Yeah, growing up, most kids, you know, they look at people and they don't have to think, is that the man that killed your mom? And everybody that I met, that's the first thing that would pop into my mind.
This is the original file from 1988.
When you have your files in a cold case, the killer's name, it's in there somewhere.
The profilers really believed that whoever it was would return to her gravesite. And for years, that was part of our initial rookie training program was, this is Kathy Schwartz's gravesite. If you see somebody at that gravesite, you need to stop and identify them because they could be a prime suspect in the murder.
More than 1,000 miles from Three Rivers, Michigan, we're right here on the Neches River in Beaumont, Texas, where another family, heartbroken for decades, the community wondering, do they too have a killer in their midst? After the brutal murder of a young elementary school teacher, Catherine Edwards. She was just 31. And detectives here wondering, would they ever have the tools to solve this case?
You know that every day that you don't solve that crime is a day that you're not going to be able to bring that perpetrator to justice.
This certainly is a scene that has always stayed with me.
And you retired, and when you left the force, at that point it had not been solved.
That's correct. Every now and then, someone would dust off the case file and start looking at it with fresh eyes, and I always thought, maybe this time something will spark and we'll catch whoever did this.
It would turn out that spark, the one that would finally reignite the whole investigation into the murder of Catherine Edwards, was actually coming, thanks to a major leap forward in forensic technology.
In 2020, a courier drops off a package at Othram's office. And inside are a sample of the bedspread from Catherine Edwards' apartment, a vial of DNA taken from the posthumous rape kit. Othram technicians take a look and they build a genetic profile of their suspect.
Investigators now have a human profile that can actually be searched in public databases to try to find possible family members across this country. And to do that, you need a genealogist to connect the dots. And Beaumont detective Aaron Llewellyn didn't have to look far for help.
Aaron Llewellyn knew one who would work the case for free, and that was his wife, Tina.
I can remember sitting at the table one night and getting really frustrated trying to map all this out. And she's like, let me help.
Actually, just move over. I got this.
No, Tina doesn't ask.
Tina Llewellyn was a detective in the Beaumont Auto Crimes Division. And she had an amateur interest in genealogy.
I can remember dozing off one night and I wake up and she's got lines going here and lines going there.
So now, along with the Middlemans from the Othram Forensic Laboratory, you've got two husband-wife teams actually working the case of this elementary school teacher, Catherine Edwards. And soon another critical partner joins the hunt.
When Tina Llewellyn is looking through the matches to their suspect, these are distant relatives of the suspected killer, she notices that a lot of them are clustered in Cajun country in Louisiana. And the same contact name keeps popping up. This woman named Shara LaPointe.
I was sitting at my desk one day and I got a phone call. He said, I'm Detective Aaron Llewellyn from the Beaumont Police Department. Your email is attached to one of the matches that we have to the person of interest.
Shara LaPointe just happens to be a professional genealogist with experience working in criminal cases. She also has Cajun ancestry.
Cajuns, back to the late 1700s, we were a small population who came to South Louisiana. And so they married their neighbors, who was usually their relatives also.
Cajun ancestry is notoriously complicated and complex to perform genealogical work on.
I knew it was going to be a challenge from the start. We spent hours and hours and hours on the phone talking to each other.
Probably no less than 5 times a day.
A friendship quickly forms as the two women spend the next 3 months building a family tree around the suspect's DNA, using every record they can find, a combination of internet research and good old-fashioned library archives.
A lot of newspaper articles.
A lot of newspaper
Obituaries.
articles. Census records. I remember I got to a couple in Beaumont, and there are yearbook records of 2 sons that couple had.
And the first one we came across, he was the right age. He went to the same high school with our victim.
Aaron goes and does research and finds out that he had a criminal history from here, and it was a prior sexual assault that had occurred in 1981.
And there was a moment like, oh, this is our guy.
And the details of that assault set off alarm bells for detectives.
There were a lot of similarities in that case that mimicked Catherine Edwards' case. The victim's hands were bound behind her back, and she was sexually assaulted.
We felt like we had a home run right then and there.
Suddenly they realized that this suspect had a second victim. The difference this time, the victim survived and lived to tell.
He started telling me that he was training to become a policeman and stuff. He was like, I'll just take you home. I don't know why, but I believed him.
So all these years later, investigators in the Catherine Edwards case, the school teacher who was brutally murdered, now think there might have been a second victim of this suspect who is still alive, Paula Bledsoe Ramsey.
I was 19. There was a new country western bar that opened up. I really didn't want to go that night, but I'd promised the other girls that I would go. I decided I wanted to leave. I was done. I wanted to get home. The parking lot was mud, and my car was stuck in the mud. I just thought, I'll just walk to the gas station and call my mom.
She says a man offered her a ride home.
He said his brother's name, and then he said where he went to high school, and then he said, do you go to Forest Park? And I was like, yeah. And then he started telling me that he was training to become a policeman and stuff. And so then he was like, I'll just take you home. And I don't know why, but, you know, I believed him.
She realized very quickly that that man wasn't driving in the direction of her home.
He started off being very nice. Next thing I know, we're at this field, and then his whole demeanor changed.
He drove her to a nearby park, threatened her with a knife, tied her hands behind her back, and raped her in the backseat of the car. Then he dropped her off at her house.
I just felt awful and shameful, and I was just like, I can't tell him. I'll never tell anybody what happened. I don't know. I was kind of like, I don't know if anybody would believe me. You know, is it my fault? Was it my fault?
Paula said she summoned the courage about a week later to tell police what had happened. They would soon tell her that they identified the man who attacked her, and it turns out he wasn't a police trainee. He was a 21-year-old salesman in Beaumont.
He said, yeah, I did it. I just got carried away.
She said that the prosecutor talked to her, said, you know, this is his first offense. We want to plead him to an aggravated assault. She didn't understand what that meant other than he was pleading to a felony and for assaulting her. And so she agreed to the plea bargain agreement.
I think today they take it more serious than they did back then. I wanted him to be punished. I think I was just pushing everything down and just trying to focus on with life.
Hey, good. How are you?
Ranger Bess?
Brandon. Yes,
Good to
sir.
see you.
Pleasure.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So when you looked at what had happened in 1981 with this sexual assault, you thought there's a lot here that seems awfully close to the Catherine Edwards case.
I did.
It turns out that the man who pleaded guilty in that 1981 case is a man by the name of Clayton Foreman. Now, this is the same name that turned up in Tina and Shara's genealogy hunt. He was one of two brothers from the family tree that they actually put together. And you might be wondering why his name never surfaced before. You have to remember that this case was back in 1981, and DNA collection wasn't even a thing by law enforcement. It was still a decade away.
This is how he eluded detectives at the time. He essentially got away scot-free.
As investigators get closer to solving this mystery, they begin to learn more about Clayton Foreman's background. And in a twist in this case, one of the things they learned is that Clayton Foreman, the suspect, actually went to the same school as Catherine Edwards, the woman who was killed. In fact, they probably walked down the same hallways here at school. And there was something else. Catherine Edwards was actually friends with the suspect's first wife. In fact, Catherine Edwards was a bridesmaid at their wedding.
Investigators figure out that Clayton Foreman is working in a suburb of Columbus, Ohio, and he's working as a rideshare driver.
We've got a suspect. Now we've got to make sure that's the right guy. So they go, they pull the trash can, they get some plastic silverware from takeout and some other things from the trash can.
So you tell the FBI what you found, and they gather some trash at the suspect's home in Ohio.
Correct. They shipped that down here to me, and then once I went through it, I coordinated with our lab here in Texas to see what items would be best to test, and they compared it to the evidence that we had.
And we got the call. This is our guy. This is a match. Of course, we're chomping at the bit to get there to Ohio.
So he'd been told that one of his Uber customers had had something taken and that he needed to come down. Maybe you guys could ask him a few questions about it. That's not what you were going to ask him about.
No, not at all.
What we're here about is we're cold case investigators.
Do you want that shock and awe factor? You want him to walk in the room, you want him to see a guy with a cowboy hat on, and he knows that this is not someone from Ohio.
We're asking you to visit with us about a crime that we're investigating, okay? You don't have to talk to us at all.
He thought we were there just following up on an old case, like, hey, these guys, they don't have anything. They're just asking me all these questions in case they do one day. I don't think he had any idea that we had his DNA.
So the crime that we're looking at is the murder of Mary Catherine Edwards. She was murdered in 1995. She and her sister, Allison, were actually in your wedding.
Right,
and
1982.
Were you aware of the crime even?
No.
You didn't know that Catherine Edwards was murdered?
No, sir.
Did not. Wedding night only would have been the only time you've seen her?
Probably so.
Okay. Never, obviously, had sex with her?
No.
Never?
Never.
Did you ever go in her house at all? Any house that she ever lived in?
No.
Clay, I'm gonna level with you. Okay, right here and now, and I want you to hear me real close.
All right, sir.
What I'm gonna tell you right now is your DNA was on Catherine's bed and was inside Catherine.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how I got there, but per se it was there.
There's only one way for it to get there.
Okay.
And that's by you putting it there.
Okay.
There's two people that know that story. You're one of them, and she's the other. And she can't talk.
Mm-hmm.
What I ask you is, now, to be honest with us completely, and tell us, how did that happen?
I'm not going to say anything. So if I need an attorney now,
You probably need one, or you do need one?
I'll need an attorney.
After he makes it outside, that's when we execute the arrest warrant and arrested him.
You showed up with the handcuffs that he used on Catherine Edwards.
We did, and got to put him on him after we got through interviewing him.
Did he know that those were the handcuffs he used?
He was told.
New developments tonight on the murder of a beloved Beaumont teacher.
So finally, 36 years after Catherine Edwards' murder and arrest, the team can now return to Texas to prepare for trial. And in South Carolina, another team of investigators, they're now chasing a promising lead in their case because of this new technology. The murder of Michigan mom Kathy Swartz. whose daughter has gone so many years without answers. At what point did hope return for you?
I got a phone call from Sam Smallcombe, and he said, we may have the guy that killed your mom.
How can we help you?
Investigators working the cold case murder of Kathy Swartz, the young Michigan mother who was murdered, her baby right nearby, they had sent off the perpetrator's DNA taken from her pink phone to that lab in Texas, Othram. So after 3 decades with no arrests in this case, Othram actually uses their cutting-edge technology to build a comprehensive DNA sequence of who the perpetrator is.
So now that you have this sequencing that they just didn't have access to years ago, what do you then do with that?
We could use that profile to search a database of people, and in doing this, we can then begin to figure out how these people that are near relatives are arranged on a family tree. And if we can do that, then we can begin to ask where the person that we're looking to identify might fit on the tree.
In going down the family tree, you find that there is actually a family that lives in Three Rivers, Michigan, a mother and father with 4 sons.
Yes. That's correct.
We got the report back, and they believed it was a family that had lived in Three Rivers. The DNA was male, so this narrowed it down to 4 brothers. The youngest brother, Barry, and then there was, the oldest was Sonny Waters, then John Waters, and then Robert Waters. We were very excited because now we have leads to run off from. We were very quickly be able to eliminate Barry because his DNA that was in CODIS.
And they're able to rule him out, so they take him right off the list. Detectives then track down 2 more of the Waters brothers, who both quickly agree to turn over their DNA.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And with that DNA, they're able to eliminate them as well, which just left Robert Waters.
Robert Waters was married, had a couple of children, and had been living in Beaufort, South Carolina for quite some time. He was a local business owner and had a plumbing business.
And from what detectives can tell from looking at his wife's Facebook page, Robert Waters appears to be a happily married family man.
All right. Hey, how you doing?
Good morning.
Hey, Robert. Good morning. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
How can we help you?
I'm Sam Smallcombe from Three Rivers PD. This is Todd Peters from Michigan State Police.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Can we talk for just a couple of minutes?
Sure.
That inconvenience
All right.
too much?
Sure.
He seemed like the guy next door that would mow your lawn for you if you were going to be out of town for a week.
So I'm helping Sam, and we reopened this case from Three Rivers from way back in the day, going back through and getting interviews and just clearing everything.
Okay.
So we were wondering if you'd have time to come down to the PD and talk with us down there.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody comes into your, knocks on your door, investigators from another state, and asks you to come down to a department and talk. You're probably going to ask why. Never asks why, and agrees to drive himself down and meet us there. So we'll just expect you in a couple minutes, and we'll meet you down.
That's fine.
All right. Thank you, sir.
After initially not showing at the police station, detectives call Waters. He's informed that they have a warrant for his prints and his DNA, and later that day he actually comes in.
But what I'm probably going to do is do the 3 and...
We had to just focus on getting the fingerprints and the DNA. Yeah, don't have a seat.
And one of the issues we'd run into is the Beaufort Police Department did not have the fingerprint live scan machine. So we had to use the traditional ink and paper.
Hang on for just a second. I gotta take a call real quick here. Yes, sir.
Hey, sorry to bother you. We're struggling with this print here.
Unfortunately, at that police station, they're having trouble actually getting a clean print from Waters.
You wanna come get your fingers dirty again? We're gonna try to do it on just card stock.
Okay. So we rolled them a second time, sent those back.
Never gets upset about it, never gets worked up about the time.
We're going to go flat down.
He still just willingly, I guess, hung out with us.
So you've got the detectives now waiting for a definitive answer from the lab in Michigan. So they spend the next 5 hours actually making small talk with Robert Waters.
Yeah.
If you like seafood.
Yep, I do.
You will like that place.
We talked about our families, his family, plumbing and remodeling houses. You would never guess by looking at that guy that he was concerned about why he was there or the outcome of it.
All right. Okay, I just wanted to tell you, we did submit the print that we took from you earlier. It did match to the one at the crime scene. So at this time, you are under arrest for the murder of Kathy Schwartz. Okay?
Okay.
It really surprised me. He did not really react. I feel like he knew when we showed up that morning that the game was up.
Do you remember when you learned that the prints were a match?
There was just so many emotions and everything going on that I was just overwhelmed and so excited because finally they had him.
So after decades, you have your answer.
Yes.
53-year-old Robert Waters, a former Three Rivers resident, now a plumber, husband, father, and accused killer.
I didn't recognize his name, didn't sound familiar to me at all.
But investigators always believed that Kathy Schwartz must have known her killer in some way. You'll remember there was no forced entry. And they finally discover the connection when they go back to speak to Kathy's one-time fiance, Mike Warner.
Well, let me ask you the obvious question. What about Rob Waters?
He came there one time.
He came there one time.
One time.
Okay. Do you remember, like, was that close to December? That was.
I think so.
He knew Robbie Waters had visited the apartment about a month before the murder.
We hadn't seen him since grade school. Yeah.
Okay, so he just somehow figured out that you guys were living at Riverside.
Showed up.
And showed up that one time.
Yeah.
I honestly think she knew him then, obviously, because he was friends with Mike, and he was in town and tried to come see my mom, and she wasn't having it.
He's waiting to be extradited to St. Joseph County.
It really was, you know, like, wow, we're gonna get some answers. We're gonna find some things out.
But before his day in court could actually come, the suspect, Robert Waters, does something that shocks everyone.
No way, this cannot be happening.
A major breakthrough in a cold case murder out of Three Rivers.
And investigators say they have finally arrested a suspect. His name is 53-year-old Robert Waters.
Those too tight?
No.
The plans were already in place. He had waived extradition, so he knew that he was going to be brought back to Michigan.
They go down to South Carolina, and they discover that this man had been living a full life.
Yeah.
Married, children, a job.
A good job. A good life. And they said he was like a godly man down there.
To that you say?
No. They don't know the real man.
But after evading law enforcement for decades, Robert Waters never makes it back to Michigan.
At like 6:30 in the morning, I received a call from an investigator from Beaufort, and she had explained that she had just come from the jail and that Robert Waters had hung himself in his cell.
I'm like, no way, this cannot be happening. Again, like a disbelief, you know, like why, how could this happen?
Yeah, he had some material that they'd given him in the jail, and it was some devotionals, and the parts that he had ripped out talked about forgiveness and asking for forgiveness.
To me, it says that you're guilty. I mean, no one is going to do that in that situation if they're innocent.
You feel robbed that you did not get the opportunity to see him face to face.
Yes. I just wanted him to feel my presence in the room.
What would you have said to him in court?
I don't think I would have said anything. I just think I would have walked in, and my presence is enough words for him.
He would have seen that baby.
Yeah.
That he left there in that crib all the
And probably my mom, because I look like her, they say.
He's a coward. To take her away from all of us in the manner that he did, and then he got to go live his life. You're not gonna give us any answers. I mean, he's just a coward.
But remember, there are 2 cases here that have been unlocked by this new technology. And back in Beaumont, Texas, Catherine Edwards' loved ones are determined to see the suspect in that case, Clayton Foreman, the man charged with murdering her, face a jury.
Clayton Foreman goes on trial in March of 2024 in Beaumont. He is charged with capital murder.
Clayton Bernard Foreman, how do you plead to the indictment, guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
There were family there, there were friends there, there were former students of Catherine's that were there to see that justice was going to be served.
Prosecutors begin by playing that 911 call Catherine's parents made for the jury.
The police, please. What's going on? I found my daughter murdered.
That 911 tape was very impactful to start the trial off with. That really gets you involved and to know that something horrible happened.
You know, Catherine's parents did not live to see the man accused of killing their daughter arrested. So this is left now to the twin sister, Allison, to tell jurors about her sister.
Are you related to Mary Catherine Edwards?
Yes, she was my twin sister.
Allison is now 60 years old, and she offered really powerful testimony about growing up with Catherine.
She just was always very nurturing and loving to people. And if anyone had a problem, they would come to her, and she would talk to strangers and make friends with people and compliment people, and just was an amazing person.
Allison recalls the afternoon where her sister's body was discovered. Catherine just never showed up to this lunch. So eventually her father, Lum, agreed to go check on her.
And my dad answered the phone, and he was frantic, and he said, "Your sister's dead, your sister's dead."
And it was just heartbreaking to see. I mean, her twin, identical twin, is what she would have looked like today if she was alive, and there she is up on the stand testifying. And the emotion and the love and the hurt, all of it came out and was so impactful with the jury.
Allison said when Catherine died, she thought her parents died a little bit that day too.
It was horrible. They were never the same. But we decided as a family after that happened that we were gonna not let what happened kill us too, and that we were gonna live to honor her, and that's what we always did after that.
In a heart-crushing moment, Allison shares with the jury how she honored her sister after her death.
4 years later, I had a daughter, and her name is Catherine. Catherine Ann, after my sister. And she never got to know her. My oldest was 9 months old, and she was her godmother, and she never got to know her either.
You can know the case inside out, but until you see somebody testify and see the raw emotion that's going on, that was raw emotion that they relived on the stand.
Excuse me, thank you. The prosecution's next witness is about to detail the surprising connection between Catherine Edwards and Clayton Foreman.
And you got married to a person by the name of Clayton Foreman.
Yes.
What she's about to tell the jury about his reaction to Catherine's death.
It dumbfounded me.
Jurors in the trial of Clayton Foreman, the man accused of killing that school teacher, Catherine Edwards, are now hearing about this investigation that took nearly 30 years, and all of it now culminating with this cutting-edge DNA testing done by that Texas lab, Othram.
So help you God. Please have a seat.
I was very eager to get to the courtroom. I work at Othram. We'll do the testing, and it will result in the building of a DNA profile to generate new leads in the investigation. There's one thing to solve a case, and there's another to be able to defend how that work was done, allow it to be interrogated openly and critiqued. We want to see at least 50% of the markers, and you can see that in actuality we have, it looks like 87%. So that's far in excess of what is necessary to produce a workable profile.
Without the DNA, the story doesn't matter. That's that one puzzle piece that puts it all together.
So prosecutors want the jurors now to hear from the woman who can actually detail the connection between that school teacher, Catherine Edwards, and Clayton Foreman. She was married to him.
My name's Diana Coate.
And remember, Catherine Edwards and her twin sister were actually bridesmaids at the wedding.
Were they friends of yours? in high school?
Yes.
She also testified that while she was married to Foreman, she actually discovered something unnerving in his car.
You had found a briefcase in the trunk of the defendant's car, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. What was inside the briefcase?
There was a gun, a set of handcuffs, and some horrible pornographic material.
Okay. Regarding the gun, was there any reason for him to have a gun that you knew of at the time?
No reason. I mean,
Is there any reason that you knew of that he would have a pair of handcuffs in the back of his trunk?
no,
Did you ever talk to him about that?
no. I didn't know what he would say. I didn't know what he would do.
And later, when questioned by the defense, Diana said she never saw the briefcase again. She also recalled an odd conversation that she'd actually had with her ex-husband about Catherine and her twin sister.
He had told me that in high school, he would see them in the hall, and he always thought they were so cute because they were twins, and he felt as though he wanted to make sure he protected them.
After 11 years of marriage, Diana and Foreman divorced, but they continue to stay in touch. And she tells jurors how 2 years later, in 1995, she actually called her ex-husband after finding out that Catherine had been murdered.
Was that very upsetting to you?
Yes.
When you told him, how did he react?
He didn't. It was very shocking to me. It had like no feeling whatsoever, and just basically was like, oh, really? And it dumbfounded me.
Excuse me, thank you.
And there was one more witness jurors would hear from, Paula Ramsey, Foreman's victim from 1981. It had been decades since Paula had even heard the name of the man who assaulted her.
It was a Friday, and I was at work. My phone rang, and it said Beaumont Police. This emotion came over me, and I was like, what, is someone messing with me?
And on the other end of the line was Detective Llewellyn.
He said he's a suspect in a murder. And that's when he started telling me about the DNA. And he said, it is a cold case murder. And I was like, you don't even have to ask. I will go. I will testify. We hung up. I just broke down. I mean, you just go back to being that girl again, where that fear and all of it just kind of consumes you again.
And so suddenly, all these years later, in a courtroom full of strangers, Paula is telling her story about how she was assaulted by Foreman.
Did he do something with your hands?
He tied them in the back, behind.
He took your hands, put them behind you, and secured them with an object. Do you believe that object may have been a belt?
Yes.
Did he threaten to cut your throat if you didn't do what he wanted?
Yes.
I just kind of blocked out everything else and just focused on the questions.
Did he say something that you found odd concerning what he'd just done to you?
Yes.
What was that?
When I was getting out of the car, he said, "Stop crying. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't hurt you."
You have to say these things out loud, and then knowing that he's sitting right over there, and just being in the same room, and that was hard.
She relived it on that stand, and it was amazing to watch her, how brave she was to do that.
You came here today to tell us true what happened to you 42, 43 years ago, right?
Yes.
Who did you do that for?
For Catherine.
I wanted to see justice done for her.
And in the end, Clayton Foreman's defense, they wouldn't call any witnesses, but they did deliver a closing statement.
You, ordinary citizens, get to decide whether or not, on the day in question, January 14th of 1995, Clayton committed the offense of capital murder. He may not like it, what he did back in 81. That doesn't make him a murderer. That doesn't make him that he went out and killed somebody.
The case was very one-sided, and the prosecution had all the witnesses, had all the evidence. There was very little the defense could do.
The verdict is in.
29 years of waiting came down to 7 days of testimony and ultimately 52 minutes of deliberation.
I'll tell you that anytime I've had a jury trial, I'm scared to death when they're walking back in that room. That is the most tense moment ever for me.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of the offense of capital murder.
It took police nearly 30 years to bring Clayton Foreman to trial for the murder of Catherine Edwards. It took the jury less than an hour to convict him. It was very fast. He was sentenced to life in prison.
It was just relief. I was thankful that I did it. Thankful that it did help. It did help putting him away.
It was an extraordinary thing to have closure in that courtroom for that young school teacher. And that other case, the mother who was brutally murdered, her baby, just a few feet away. Now she's about to meet the couple who unlocked this case. As we stand here today, all these years later, it's so peaceful and quiet here. It's hard to imagine what played out behind us.
It is. Thankfully, the detectives worked very, very hard on this.
And never gave up.
Never gave up, and they solved it. Detective Llewellyn called me, and he said, "Hey, Carmen, you remember how you said you always wanted that case solved before you retired? Well, I know you've retired, but I think we got him," and he did.
I can see the satisfaction on your face. Justice after all these years.
After all these years, absolutely.
Justice, finally, for that elementary school teacher, Catherine Edwards. And in the second case, justice as well for Kathy Swartz's daughter, Courtney. Hi, Courtney.
Hello. Hi.
So these are the two who helped solve the case.
Hello,
Kristen. Just the idea, though, that the two of them were able to go back and look at that evidence and solve it all these years later.
I can't even, I don't even have no words.
You don't need words. I'm glad you have answers.
Thank you.
It's unbelievable just in my career to see, like when I started in '97 to where we're at today. You have these cases that are literally going nowhere. You give them this DNA sample and the next thing you know who your suspect is.
Do you think that there are cases like this all over the country right now just waiting to be solved with this new technology?
Absolutely, all over the country and all over the world, but finding every case, I think, would be the goal. Every one, every sexual assault, every homicide, every one of them. We need to find those cases and we need to get them submitted and worked.
And that means answers, finally, for thousands of families.
Sure, absolutely.
There are tens of thousands of little tubes of DNA in crime labs across this country, and all of them have answers.
I think we're going to live in a world in this lifetime where there are no unidentified victims, victims that are named voiceless, where perpetrators are caught the first time they commit a crime.
For some families, you are the last hope.
For many.
Yeah.
I don't believe in closure when you've gone through something as horrible as one of these violent crimes, but I do believe that truth allows you to turn the page.
I have been living with this for 36 years, and these people, they took their time. They solved this case with DNA so I can close this book and open up my own book with my own kids. And there's no words for that.
And we should note that that lab, those DNA decoders, Kristen and David Middleman, Othram, they recently announced their 455th DNA match. Deborah, they are solving these cases.
And how incredible, David. Catherine Edwards' killer, Clayton Foreman, will be eligible for parole in 30 years. He'll be in his 90s. He's appealing his conviction. That's our program for tonight. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Deborah Roberts.
And I'm David Muir from all of us here at 2020 at ABC News. Good night.
Day, because when I look back, I just think about the tragedy.
911, address of your emergency?
Yeah, we have a missing person.
The woman who owns the property where the wedding guests are staying is nowhere to be found.
I had her neighbor go over there to check on her.
She said, the door's wide open, the TV's blaring, and you better come over here.
It is haunting and chilling in a way that I'll never forget.
Did you see anything else strange when you went in the house? Yes. What? There seems to be blood all over her pillow. There's 20-plus guests staying in the big house, and there's a wedding party.
The house turned into a crime scene. It's taped off. The police are there. There's helicopters. There's dogs. All of my friends don't know how they're getting back to that house.
These are all potential suspects in the case. I mean, this is like an Agatha Christie novel, like a classic whodunit.
I knew that something really bad had happened, and it wasn't going to be good.
The draw for Paso Robles is, of course, the scenery, the layout of the land.
The real name of Paso Robles is called El Paso de Robles, which is the Pass of the Oaks.
Oak trees, horses, cattle, and then there's the vineyards.
The Paso Robles area, it is very much the hotspot of wineries in the county.
Just, it's honestly like a fairy tale place to go.
I was born and raised in California. I have close family and friends who lived and grew up not far from here. I've always loved this area. Paso Robles, nestled halfway between San Francisco and Los Angeles, a getaway town, scenic and quiet. But down El Faro Road, in the middle of all this beauty, something ugly took place, right here at this secluded vacation home. The owner of this ranch-style property was 62-year-old Nancy Woodrum. She lived alone after her husband passed away a few years before, and she was really a fixture in the Paso Robles community and ran a popular salon downtown.
We are at Nancy's Salon. This is the Strand. This is where I come every 3 weeks to have her do her magic. Nancy clicked with everybody. She just had that amazing gift of just openness, kindness, just generous. And she passed on her amazing gift to her daughter, Amanda, who now is my stylist.
Do you have a favorite photograph?
This one, my mom and I.
What makes this photograph so special?
We had a special bond. I was her firstborn, and it just really shows that relationship that we had. Sums it all up.
How would you describe your mom? What was she like?
She liked to have fun. She liked to do things. She was active. We were always doing stuff. Going here, going there with the horses, the animals. Oh, okay. You're fine. Oh, okay. All right, I won't leave you. She loved riding. It was calming to her. And she loved being out in nature with the horses.
You and your mother, you shared this talent for hairdressing, passion for horseback riding, but also a belief in a particular faith.
Well, she raised me as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and she had very strong morals and raised me to be a good person.
Nancy was always a devout Jehovah's Witness. We believe that the earth will be made new again. We believe that God created it for a purpose, and He's going to make it a beautiful paradise again.
Amanda's parents, Robert and Nancy, purchased the property on El Faro Road in 2006. It was a fixer-upper. They were going to have this project and make it their home. But eventually, they decided to turn this property into a vacation rental.
My dad was a contractor, and they made it beautiful. They remodeled it and worked really hard on it.
So you come in, you'd see this 2-story Victorian home with wraparound porches and this willow tree that you parked under.
What did Nancy name the property?
It was called Paradise Ranch because she had the hope of being in paradise, the hope that the Bible gives us.
On Friday, May 4th, this big group of wedding guests check into Paradise Ranch for a weekend wedding at a local winery. The bride, who found the place online, is staying there with her bridesmaids and some close friends. She asks us not to show her face or reveal her name.
We wanted to do a vineyard wedding in Paso Robles. It was a special place to us. Paradise Ranch seemed perfect when we saw the pictures. The main house was very large and welcoming and just charming. And then the guest house was where I was staying. And that was also just very quaint and cute. Nancy came by the guest house and introduced herself. She was very warm and welcoming and gave me a hug, and she was so kind. And she mentioned that she was staying close by on the property.
And then on Saturday, May 5th, you received a phone call that concerned you. What did you learn on that call?
My mom had not shown up for a Bible study, and that was very unusual. I had her neighbor go over there to check on her. She said, the door's wide open, the TV's blaring, and you better come over here.
What did you see when you first approached your mother's apartment?
Everything was there as she left it, but she wasn't there. There was a stain on the carpet. Her sheets and her bedding were missing.
I looked closer at the walls, and when I saw what looked to be splatter on the walls, that's when I grabbed the phone and called 911.
911, address of your emergency?
Yeah, we have a missing person. My mother-in-law has not been heard of or seen today.
Did you see anything else strange when you went in the house?
Yes.
What?
There seems to be blood all over her pillow.
Okay.
There's 20-plus guests staying in the big house, and there's a wedding party. And
There's a wedding party that was there this weekend?
Yes.
I was so excited, getting ready for my wedding day, and a couple family members came by, and I just remember, have you seen my mom? Have you seen our mom? And something about blood, and I freaked out.
I just asked if they had seen my mom today, and no one had seen her.
And what's your state of mind at this point?
Panic.
Shaky and frantic.
Amanda is frantically looking for her mother. The cops are on the property looking for clues. But at the same time that this is going on, down the road, an eagle-eyed officer makes a discovery that could break the case open.
What was extremely suspicious in my mind just really quadrupled. My name is Clinton Cole. I'm a reserve detective with the San Luis Obispo County Sheriff's Office. I live in a house with my girlfriend and 3 dogs and 2 birds. Hi, little bird. I usually get up pretty early. I have coffee, I get the dogs out,
sneaking through the curtains,
I feed them, and then
coffee cup cooling
of
on the side.
relax.
You're still tangled in that blanket.
2018,
I'm still tangled in your mind. Bare feet on cold kitchen towel. You call my name through a sleepy smile. Wake me up, baby, like you always do. Kiss me till the morning, feels brand new. Shake my bones, my lazy heart. Pull me in and restart. Wake me up, baby. Wake me up with you. Phone keeps buzzing on the dresser. World keeps yelling at the door. But your hand slips under my sweater, and I don't need much more. Burnt toast, laugh it off together. Wrong song playing, we sing it better. Wake me up, baby, like you always do. Kiss me till the morning, feels brand new. Shake my bones, my lazy heart. Pull me in and restart. Wake me up, baby. Wake me up with you. Don't need alarm, just your breath on my neck. That sleepy head got me losing my step. If this is all we ever get to do, I'll fall asleep just to wake up next to you.
Well, when I first walked in,
wake me up, baby, like you always do. Kiss me till the morning,
right here on the
feels brand new. Shake my bones, my lazy heart. Pull me in and restart. Wake me up, baby. Wake me up with you. Wake me up with you.
Her two vehicles were parked out there. There was a pillow sitting here, a beige pillow that had blood on it, and there was blood spatter on that cabinet, as well as on Nancy's headboard and against the back wall.
I just want
What are all these signals telling you about what happened in this cottage?
I felt immediately that she was taken against her will.
You thought this was a crime scene?
Absolutely, right away.
While investigators are on the property, looking for any clues they can find, down the road that evening, a huge discovery is made that changes the entire case's direction.
We received a phone call from an officer with the California Highway Patrol who had located some bedding and clothing about 6 or 7 miles from Nancy's house on La Ponza Road. So this area here is where items were located by the California Highway Patrol. Those items consisted of bedding, a pillow, a dress, a woman's dress, a pair of shorts, and a shirt. We obviously wanted to find out if they were related.
All of the evidence is brought back and secured in the crime lab annex. When I opened everything up, we looked at all of the evidence more thoroughly. What struck me with this bedding was that there were stains that appeared to be blood stains. The gingham type print was consistent with the remaining bedding that was at El Faro. These items were located on La Ponza along with the bedding, and this was 2 of the clothing items. My thought was that Nancy was wrapped in part of the bedding and transported, whether it be that she was deceased or whether it be that she was severely injured.
We showed these items to her daughter, who confirmed, in fact, these items did come from Nancy's bedroom.
Did you recognize them immediately?
Mm-hmm. Yep, it was her stuff. I think that's when I knew that something really bad had happened, and it wasn't going to be good.
That's when I knew in my heart we needed to find her, and we needed to do it now.
It's Saturday evening, and police are trying desperately to figure out who would want to hurt Nancy Woodrum. Well, suddenly, their potential suspect list gets really long. because returning to the property from the wedding are all those guests staying at the ranch.
There were approximately 20 or more guests staying in this large white house and the smaller house.
These are all potential suspects in the case.
Yes, it's very overwhelming. We have a missing person on this property and potentially 20 to 24 people that could be suspects but have to be interviewed.
Now you have a suspect pool of 20 plus people that you've got to ask yourself, is this a thing where someone came into town for a wedding and became involved in a crime?
I really feel like you can help us because I feel like you may have seen something.
So you're searching all around the property, essentially every square inch, and then something catches your attention in the driveway?
About right here, I had noticed what appeared to be 2 fresh tire tracks that had pulled in and were in here. And as where we're standing right below us here, I noticed what appeared to be scuffle marks, as if there was a fight between 2 people with their feet. The scene spoke very loudly to me that Nancy was assaulted inside of her bedroom and then taken somewhere against her will. I saw a pillow on the bed. To be honest, I wasn't as focused on that as much as I was kind of the rest of the room. Janine did an excellent job of getting up on top of a ladder to look down. And that's when she was able to see what looked like a handprint.
From up above, when I looked directly down, I really thought the pattern of it stood out as being a partial handprint. The one side that had a lot of blood most likely was against a person that was bleeding, and the other side that had just the handprint was that this could very well be the weapon that was used to suffocate or smother.
So investigators swabbed this pillow right in the middle of the blood stain of the bloody hand for DNA and sent it off to a lab.
I was at the property when people started coming back from the wedding. So yes, we have just this huge list of potential suspects, persons of interest, whatever you want to call them, that had ready access to Nancy.
So Paradise Ranch is so remote that there just wouldn't be anybody else around to have access to Nancy to harm her. So it's logical that you would look right at the wedding party for potential suspects to see if maybe anybody have something to do with this.
You need to talk to every single one of them.
Absolutely. Well, we had a search warrant for the entire property. As the wedding guests start coming and they're being told, you're not allowed in here. Some of them had children. You know, my diapers, my food, my baby's food. The scene became a little chaotic.
Is it even possible for us to be able to come back later and go to sleep there?
What I'm gonna do right now is go find out what the answers to those questions are for you.
What was the bride's reaction when you told her what was going on here?
She was very emotional. She was upset.
I was in complete shock and horrified and could not believe that this was happening to Nancy, who I had just met, and she was so kind and lovely.
It's extremely frustrating to us that you can see how close this house is to Nancy's residence. So you would think someone would hear a car drive up, a scream or something, but no witnesses of over 24 people heard a thing.
Anything unusual happen that you guys noticed in any way with anybody?
No, not anything out of the ordinary.
So the bride is just sleeping on the other side of the wall from Nancy's apartment.
As hard as it is to believe, Nancy's door is here. It was open. And right next door, only one wall separating the two, was where the bride was sleeping. And she said she did not hear anything.
I, went into the guest house, and then my girlfriends and I were doing like face masks and stuff. And then we went to bed at about like 11:15. Did my usual thing where I pop in my earplugs and go to bed.
Keep in mind that police believe that Nancy actually went missing the evening before. And then they learned that that wedding party that had been staying on the property, they were at the rehearsal dinner until late that night.
We went straight to the rehearsal dinner. It was at Cass Winery.
Okay.
And got back from that around 10:30. I would say at like midnight, we all went to bed.
So there was one wedding guest that we couldn't 100% account for him being at the rehearsal dinner.
I wasn't in the wedding or anything, so I pretty much just hung out in the house.
So you were here the whole time?
Yeah.
Okay.
He wasn't clear whether he was here, possibly alone with Nancy Woodrum, or did he in fact go to the event at the wedding? And so that raised some concerns, and so we had to take extra time and speak to him again the next day.
We're just trying to figure out what happened, and
I would love to be helpful, but I don't have anything else. This is this is onerous at this point.
All of a sudden, this guy now is like not wanting to cooperate, Usually, people who aren't involved bend over backwards for you.
I really need your help. I don't want to impact your day. I don't want to impact your work. We can do it after work.
I'd prefer not to.
I feel like you may have seen something, and
I haven't.
And so that immediately was a red flag for us, and it was still confusing. We needed to clear it up as soon as possible.
Now, detectives decide they're going to go for round 3 with this particular guest. And this time they go right to his home. And they intend to come back with 2 things, an explanation and some DNA.
We knew we had to get this interview done with or without his permission, or at least try to, and did not let him know we were coming. And we went to the front door and knocked on the door.
Well, how are you?
You want to come in?
Absolutely.
There was one wedding guest whose whereabouts the night Nancy Woodrum disappeared were questionable. So we went to his residence in Northern California to try and confirm his whereabouts that night.
Hey, I just got your call.
Awesome. Hey, just wanted to just ask you a few more questions if you don't mind.
Sure. You want to come in?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm Dave. Good to meet you.
I'm Clint. Good to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Have a seat. Absolutely.
He was no longer resistive. He was very cooperative. Actually appeared to feel bad for the way he had talked on the phone.
We just had a couple more questions to clarify, and then just a picture. So, did you go to the rehearsal and the rehearsal dinner, or did you stay?
No, I went to both. Or sorry, I went to the rehearsal dinner, not the rehearsal.
I think there were a few pictures on my wife's phone that you can see of me like at the rehearsal dinner. I can show you pictures from the property. Like,
his wife remembered to show us photos at the rehearsal dinner on Friday. So the confusion that he stayed back was immediately erased. It was a very frustrating time for us.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, Joe, thank you.
The wedding guest, who wasn't legally obligated to participate in the investigation, also agreed to submit a DNA sample. While all of this is happening, police are ramping up their efforts now to find Nancy. This shocking disappearance makes huge news in the Paso Robles community.
Deputies are expanding their search, asking nearby residents for security footage. 62-year-old Nancy Woodrum has been missing since Friday afternoon.
We're leveraging all of our resources to do the best we can to figure out where Nancy may have gone and what took place.
This search is playing out all through these foothills and along the riverbed.
There's a riverbed right behind Nancy's property line. We had search and rescue search all of this area out towards the riverbed, the exterior parts of Nancy's property.
We also utilize helicopter to come in and search at a high level for signs, bodies, anything like that.
We had a very good group of friends that were very close to us, and they would go out and go search, go down La Ponza, go down 58.
We'd look through everything, the culverts, everything. And what was going through my mind is Nancy's a tough girl. And I know that she's a fighter. And I'm like, she's alive. We will find her and she's gonna be okay.
During the investigation, we developed another lead. So not only were the wedding guests on the property, but we learned that there was a fairly large number of other people that had access to Nancy Woodrum's property at the time she went missing.
Nancy had decided to sell Paradise Ranch. It was too much work for her. She was having work done on her house to assist with the sale of the home.
Why did Nancy decide to sell Paradise Ranch?
Because she wanted to preach full-time. She really wanted to teach people about the Bible and share her hope with other people.
There were contractors, painters, plumbers, all doing repair work to finalize the sale of Nancy's residence.
You needed to talk to all of them.
Absolutely. Every single person that was on this property within the last couple of weeks had to be located and interviewed.
One of the pieces of evidence left behind was Nancy's iPad case. And all around it were pamphlets and notes and numbers. And there was one of a painter, and the name was Carlo Fuentes, and a phone number.
And so we decided that we should call Carlo Fuentes, since he was on scene, and see if he saw anything that hadn't been reported yet.
Hi, I'm calling because we're investigating the disappearance of Nancy Woodrum. Do you remember when you were there on that Thursday? Do you remember if Nancy was there?
Yes, she was there.
He was very cooperative, very friendly with Detective Cole.
Did you see Nancy like having an argument or disagreement with anybody?
You know, to be honest, I didn't notice anything like that. But I remember she told me, "Oh, you're a hard worker," and then she gave me a tamale.
And Amanda mentioned the name of Sean Bloom, who was a general contractor who had worked on the house. And she reported that Nancy and Mr. Bloom had had some dispute over work that had been performed. And it had become quite heated and quite contentious.
How would you characterize the relationship between your mother and Sean Bloom?
Sean was very frustrated. He eventually got fired. He did not get payment until escrow closed for the work that he had done up to that point. Like, he wanted his money.
Sean Bloom was definitely a person of interest, and one of the first couple of people that we called in to be interviewed once we were done with the wedding party.
Actually, I don't like working with Nancy. It's been very difficult. We had issues where Nancy was not happy with our work, fired me off the job.
When was the last time you talked to Nancy?
It was through an email or text. I have it here.
All the text messages between him and Nancy made no denials about his dislike of Nancy.
And what was the nature of those texts?
Let's see here. So I said, if I don't get payment quickly, I'm going to begin with lawsuits against you and everybody involved.
We're asking everyone we talk to if you mind providing what we call a buccal swab and see if there's any DNA that might be associated.
I hear what you're saying. I'm going to say, let me talk to my attorney.
So we were like, all right, well, you won't give his DNA without talking to his attorney. 1, he's just being cautious, or 2, he's concerned. So, which is it?
Nancy grew up in San Fernando Valley. At 18 years old, she already obtained her cosmetology license and wanted to do more fashionable hairstyles. And so she commuted to Woodland Hills, where she worked in an exclusive salon. Neil Diamond's wife came in.
She did Kenny Rogers.
She always liked to let everybody know that by 21, she owned her own home and had a Corvette.
Then she met her husband, Robert, who was your quintessential Southern California surfer.
We moved up here in 1991, and it was the 3 of us kids, my parents, and we moved from Woodland Hills to the Central Coast area.
I understand that there were a number of tragedies that struck the family.
So in between me and my brother, Chad, there was another baby, Christopher Michael, and he was 10 days old when he died. He was born with a blockage in his intestines.
And then your sister?
She passed away shortly before her 18th birthday.
Nancy's daughter, Amy, passed away from cystic fibrosis.
Amy was a great person, and it really broke my parents' heart. Yeah, it was sad.
And I understand then you lost your father suddenly.
Yep.
Unexpectedly.
Yep.
What happened to him?
He had a heart attack and collapsed as he was getting into my car. It was hard. It was very traumatic.
How did Nancy cope with all of these tragedies?
She had really strong faith in God and a good hope that she was going to see her loved ones again, and that really got her through.
After suffering through all these tragedies, now Nancy herself has vanished into thin air, and her loved ones are hoping against hope that somehow she'll turn up alive and well.
The family's obviously anxious. The investigators are anxious. They're trying to figure out what happened. The community's interested. Is this going to happen to somebody else?
We know that a timeline is essential to a detective. And about a week into their investigation, they make a critical discovery that's going to tell them exactly the time that Nancy went missing.
At midnight 17, there was a 911 call that showed up on the bill for 0 seconds, meaning it didn't go through. It gets shut off somehow.
Like in a split second?
Like very quickly.
What that did was provide what appeared to be a pretty good time and date stamp on when something bad may have happened to Nancy.
Approximately 12 days within the investigation, we got a big lead. The lab informed us that they had developed unknown male DNA on the pillow that we submitted from Nancy's bed.
They submitted it to the state database, CODIS, but no matches were found, which meant that the person whose DNA this was
had no record.
To our surprise, several days later, Sean Bloom contacted us and submitted his DNA voluntarily, which cleared him as a suspect.
The DNA results also cleared that wedding guest who police initially found suspicious. But as they started digging deeper into the case, they found something surprising that has investigators wondering whether this was a highly personal crime with a possible suspect much closer to home.
In terms of looking at all potential suspects or persons of interest, there was information that was provided that she potentially had conflict with her son.
I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't talked to my mother face to face in probably 5 years.
I think my brother had a lot of anger growing up. He did not want to be part of the religion that we were in, which was his decision, and but he was angry about it.
She tends to correct our teachings, about God, heaven, and we believe in different things, and that's when I kind of just squashed the relationship.
How bitter or challenging did the relationship become between Chad and your mother, Nancy?
At the point of her disappearance, it was not good. They hadn't spoken in quite a while, and my mom was not allowed to see his kids.
But Nancy and Chad were texting each other
the night before.
Right before she disappeared.
Yeah.
And she was reaching out to my brother, trying to just get on common ground maybe with him that way.
He was the last text to her that she had in her phone.
He said he doesn't trust cops and that he's not coming to the station. We were welcome to come to his house and interview him. So we did, and he refused to give his DNA. He was adamant about it.
Can I mention the DNA sample so it would just solely be specifically for this investigation?
I've heard of cases of misappropriated samples, and it can ruin people's lives. And unless it's mandatory, I strongly stand by my decision.
So we surveilled him. We watched him drink 5 or 6 beers. He put the empties in the cab of his truck, and then he drove home.
Chad was stopped and arrested for driving with an open container. While the charge was dropped, those beer bottles were sent to the lab for DNA testing.
Chad ultimately was cleared by DNA.
The case kind of did stall because you got a lot of people we've looked into up to this point, and we're not getting a lot of traction.
Was there a point when you felt like you were desperate for news?
Right.
Yeah,
we just wanted to figure this out. I was more than willing to help.
No one knew where Nancy was, and needed something to break.
Detectives are about to throw a Hail Mary. They're going to use a relatively new crime-fighting tool, one this department has never used. If it's successful, they'll be able to find out who was in Nancy's cottage at the very moment she disappeared.
I'm excited. We've got something to go on now.
I always remember Nancy liking the old country music. We'd always be playing music either at Nancy's house or my family's house, and it was a big part of our lives. Every summer they would set up a concert series, and Nancy volunteered her property for this. It just was a music party, and everyone would dance, and she loved that. This was one of her favorite songs that she liked when I sang, and it's called Syrup and Honey by Duffy. Don't you be wasting all your money on syrup and honey. It'd be good. We just kind of came to the conclusion that we might never know what happened to her. It was really tough. And it was tough for me, but her daughter and Chad, and her grandkids, like that. It was hard.
We are definitely very frustrated. The public was unhappy. They felt like we weren't doing anything. They felt like we weren't working the case. We were working on it every single day.
The case kind of did stall because it came to the point where we sort of ran out of investigative leads. Other avenues had to be explored.
And one of the detectives had recently heard about this novel type of evidence called geofencing.
So you've hit a wall in the investigation, you decide you're going to try something new called geofencing, and this is something that really hasn't been done in California before.
At that time, yes, we were one of the first agencies in the state of California that did this, what is called a Google geofence.
You can put a fence, a virtual fence, around an area, a house, a property, and Google will track which Google accounts, emails or cell phones, come within that fence in a given period of time.
These are actually GPS coordinates that you send to Google.
Yes.
You're essentially able to isolate not necessarily who's on the property, but what devices may be on the property, and that's giving you an avenue to now investigate.
It doesn't matter what kind of phone you have, iPhone, Android, Google is tracking you.
That is correct. As long as location services are on your cellular device, Google is tracking that phone and you.
In order to obtain Google geofence information, search warrants needed to be written and served upon Google for a very specific time period.
Now remember, because of that interrupted 911 call at 12:17 a.m., well, that gives detectives a timeline to work with as to when she went missing.
Then Google sends the results. And what do you see?
What you're seeing here is what we got back.
So this is your first fence.
Some people feel that there are privacy concerns. Paradise Ranch is in a rural area, and there are not going to be a lot of unknown people who are going to be located in this geofence.
So little by little, we're zooming in here. These are the phones associated with the wedding guests.
That is correct. The larger circle here within this circle is all wedding guests, and it looks like there's 4.
Yeah, 20 plus wedding guests.
Correct. The reason their phones aren't showing is their phones are probably kind of in silent mode, sleeping, no apps are being used, so that's why you only see 4.
And just to be clear, this number, this is not a phone number, correct?
Correct. Google assigns each cell phone its own device number. The device number is right here, and that is specific to whoever owns that phone. It's like a fingerprint.
By now, all the wedding guests have been cleared, so those numbers are not really the major focus of detectives. What is the major focus is what they see when they examine Nancy's cottage.
As we get here, that is actually Nancy's studio, and we see a cell phone, what we call pinging, basically right in the wall of Nancy's studio. It pings here at 1:33 in the morning and at 01:52 hours.
And that's the time when you believe Nancy disappeared.
That is 100% when we believe Nancy disappeared.
I can tell you from my perspective, I'm excited. We've got something. We've got something to go on now.
Could it have been Nancy's phone? We don't know. But what we do know is it's at strange, odd hours, and it's inside her studio.
So this is a potentially huge moment in the investigation. Either that phone belongs to Nancy and it's another dead end, or it belongs to someone else, you get a name, and that person becomes your most likely killer?
100%. Either that device leads us to a suspect, or we are back to absolutely nothing.
Square one.
Yes.
for months, it's been a daunting mystery. Who could have taken Nancy Woodrum from her beautiful Paso Robles property in California and in the middle of a wedding where more than 20 guests were staying? But thanks to geofencing, this cell phone tracking technology, investigators finally have their first big clue. So this is a key moment in the investigation. You have this huge piece of evidence, a cell phone inside Nancy's cottage. You have to figure out who it belongs to. What's next?
We have to write another set of warrant for the subscriber information.
So it starts the ball rolling, but there's still a fair amount of wait for the data. Sometimes it could take a few weeks.
It's in November. I'm in the courthouse and my phone rings. It's my partner, and they said, "You're not gonna believe this." We got a name of who owned that device, and it is Carlo Fuentes.
A name you recognize, the painter.
Yes, Carlo Fuentes was painting at Nancy's residence numerous times prior to her going missing.
Wait a minute, the painter? Well, this is a shock to investigators because remember, they had already interviewed Carlo Fuentes Flores earlier. This guy was cooperative and mild-mannered, and there was no reason to suspect him then. But now, there's a reason.
We know it's his phone, we know he's there, we know he had that opportunity because he's familiar with the property, he was familiar with Nancy's habits. All those things added up.
There's not a reasonable explanation why anybody would be out doing painting at that time of night. It's looking like he's at least somebody that needs to be talked to again.
So once we get Carlo identified, we need to know as much as we can about him.
What did you find?
We spoke to people that he painted for and friends. Seemed like just a normal guy who had come here from Mexico.
He was one of those guys that you'd want on your team. Worked on and off for me for 20 years.
He just had a good way of communicating, which is, kind of rare in the trades. Seemed very neat, tidy painter and professional.
He was great with clients, very polite and courteous.
Just loved being a dad. He was, loved his daughter, just raved about his daughter.
He was a father, a husband, and by all accounts was someone who was just leading a normal life.
The geofence hit was not enough to arrest him at the time, in large part because it's simply a phone. It doesn't prove that Carlo Fuentes Flores was in possession of his phone at that time. The phone could have been in the possession of somebody else.
You looked into his criminal record, anything there?
There was absolutely nothing in his criminal record, either in Mexico or the United States.
We found no indication that he had a criminal history anywhere. It was really kind of a surprise that way.
He wasn't in a romantic relationship with her. There was not a dispute over funds. There was simply no connection or explanation for why this normal person would try to hurt Nancy.
Now, this is quite baffling to detectives because their initial findings just don't fit the pattern of a suspect in a brutal crime. It isn't adding up why Carlo's phone was at Nancy's cottage. That is, until they do a deep dive into his Google search history and find something surprising.
You found something unexpected?
Yes, he was doing Google searches for cougar and sexy lingerie videos.
That's odd.
That is odd, yes. As you can see, cougar lingerie porn videos, sexy cougars. This has a theme to it that is tied to our case. Nancy Woodrum was older than Carlo Fuentes by about 15 to 20 years, and this is cougar porn.
He clearly has a thing for older women.
Based on his Google search history, absolutely. As we went further into his Google search history, we found where he was searching for escorts in different cities that he was in.
And did he connect with any of these women?
We believe he did, based on some things we found on his cell phone. We found
numerous videos of him having sex.
Videos that he shot himself with various women.
Yes. I would say there was at least 10 to 15 videos.
So this father, this husband, had secrets.
A lot of deep secrets that most people don't have. There was the daytime, very nice, courteous painter, excellent painter, great at his job, and then there was the night, kind of weird fetish, drinking too much, Fuentes Flores.
I noticed after a period of time that he was drinking more and kind of like hooking up with different women. There was times where he asked actually to borrow money from me to go to Vegas and girls of the night kind of thing.
He had told me about a call girl he had picked up in Las Vegas, and then there was an older gal that he was seeing. So I just told him, hey man, you're gonna mess it up. You know, you've got a wife, you got a daughter. And so I tried to warn him, you know, multiple times.
We needed more evidence to make this an airtight case.
So we wanted to get Carlos' DNA without letting him know that we were on to him.
The detectives began surveillance on Carlo Fuentes Flores shortly thereafter in order to get an actual DNA sample from him.
We used our special operations unit because what they do all day long is surveillances of people and drug dealers and gang members.
Well, we know Carlo is not a drug dealer and not a gang member, but he's now on those officer sites. He has no clue what's going to happen to him next. So now investigators have that geofencing evidence showing Carlo Fuentes Flores' phone at the crime scene. And they've also got his search history of porn and escorts. But they're after more conclusive proof that he did something to Nancy Woodrum, a DNA match to that bloody pillow.
So we followed him, and he went to a local restaurant, had lunch with his wife, and left a Coke bottle that he drank out of on the table. And when it's in a public place, then we can take it without a warrant.
They retrieved this Coke bottle, they took it to the DNA lab, they had the DNA pulled on it, and it matched the DNA that we had on the pillow.
It's a match. And it's a critical moment in this investigation. Detectives are now closing in on Carlo Fuentes Flores.
So once we received the confirmation that it was Carlo's DNA in the bloody handprint, we needed to talk to Carlo. We needed to hear his side of the story.
Yeah, thank you for being on time.
This is the room where you interrogated Carlo Fuentes.
Yes, it is. This is the room. My partner, Dave, was here with me. I was off to this side.
You're asking him a variety of questions. And in this clip here, you're asking about his job painting at the property.
What exactly were you guys painting? Like the deck, the trim fascia boards?
No, it was the deck.
On the big house?
Yeah, on the big house.
So you then start showing him pictures of the property.
So that's what you consider the big main house?
Yes,
And that's where you did a lot of work, and the deck's back here?
Yes.
And you used the bathroom in there?
There was a bathroom in the main house and down below. And then we use a bathroom in this area right here.
What were you trying to do there?
What we're doing is we're putting him on the property. We wanted to know that he knew where Nancy's studio was.
They're looking for things that that person's going to tell them that is not true. And presumably that person has no idea what we know.
Did you know where Nancy stayed?
To be honest, I didn't even know that she was staying in that area.
He was painting for Nancy, and she was nice to him and gave him tamales, and they read scripture together, and then he doesn't know what happened with her.
What have you heard about?
You know what?
What happened to her?
The only stuff I heard, like, it was from my boss, coming from my boss, like, that she just disappeared and that's it. And then we never, like, heard anything else.
So at this point in the interrogation, he's saying he doesn't know anything about what happened to Nancy. But then you start applying a little more pressure.
Yes, that was a plan of ours.
Please don't take this the wrong way, but are you in any way involved with Nancy missing?
Oh, no, no.
Any reason why anyone would say that?
Well, because there's no reason. Yeah, there's no reason.
Now they ratchet up the pressure. They let Carlo know they have DNA evidence, and they don't buy his story.
We've done a very thorough investigation. We've spent thousands of hours on this case.
Because we waited for all of the evidence, we were able to say, no, we know you came back.
We know a lot of stuff. We're giving you a chance now to change your story and be honest with us.
Okay.
If you have something else that you'd like to tell us.
At that moment, in my opinion, he knew we knew. It was no longer what do they know, it was, oh no, they know.
And you could see his body change.
Oh my God. I want to be honest with you guys. I know that I made a mistake.
I could literally see my heart beating in my shirt. There's just a million things going through your head.
But they aren't expecting what he says next. Fuentes Flores admits he killed Nancy, but he says it was an accident when he went to the house to retrieve some equipment.
I went back and get one of the ladders I supposed to be getting for the next job.
He said when he went and loaded the ladder up and he was backing up, he didn't know she had walked up behind him and he ran her over.
So you're saying you hit her with your car, your truck? Okay.
And then I took her back in the place, and that's when she collapsed.
It was an accident. I hit her. I took her inside to help her. But then you start getting down a road where he probably realized he could only lie so much at that point.
You're not being fully honest. Please tell us what happened.
All right. Okay. So I had sex with her.
This was the first time in the interview when my jaw really hit the floor.
How did you have sex with, tell me how that transpired.
You know what? I was drunk.
Did she invite you over there, or did you just show up and...
No, I just showed up there and then just to go and get the ladder.
He said no, she didn't know I was coming over, and if we know it was not consensual and it was a rape and she's dead, then we have a special circumstance murder case.
But what they don't know is, where is Nancy?
Can we try and see if we can find where you took her?
You actually bring in an iPad and you're hoping he can point out on a map where you can find Nancy?
Yes.
And instead, this stunning moment when he offers to take you to her body.
He did.
If you guys don't mind, I would like to take you.
We would like you to do that too.
All right.
When Carlo Fuentes Flores told us that he would take us to Nancy Woodrum's body, we placed him in a car and he directed us due east from the Templeton substation.
So the detectives went in one car and I went in a car right behind them. As we drove from Paso Robles, the journey from the police stations was about an hour. It goes from more arable land in Paso Robles to kind of a more desert topography, out to the Carrizo Plain, which is just on the border with Kern County.
I'm thinking, wow, that's going to be a tough find. When you have something, even buried something in that area, animals dig it up. So you don't expect a lot.
Carlo Fuentes Flores' demeanor on the ride was very subdued, quiet.
I know that you guys just doing your job, and I wish that I could be forward like a long time ago, and because this time it has been killing me. Like,
You know, the longer we were driving with Carlo, the more frustrating it was becoming. We didn't feel like he was playing games with us, but this is difficult territory to remember anything, and so there was a time where we felt like maybe he wouldn't remember where he put her.
How far off of the road was she?
oh, it was not far, probably like 100 feet. We can check like this area right here.
You think it might be in here?
I'm not sure. We can check on this area.
I think everyone behind us who was following us were like, okay, what's the deal? Can he find her? The anxiety is tremendous.
It was something like this, and I even remember like there was a car coming, and I had to bend down. And then there's gonna be a pile of rocks around her. Can we try a different spot?
Yeah, if you don't,
Right.
I mean, if you don't think it's this one then, right?
I hadn't brought a jacket, and I remember being so cold, and I remember thinking, how is anybody gonna ever find anything in that grass? I remember looking at them just walking in circles, thinking, is Nancy gonna be here?
He had stopped at 4 or 5 different locations.
Here, pull over right here.
And we were unable to locate the spot that Carlo said he placed Nancy. I started feeling like he may not be able to remember.
It's like a long ways to bring her.
Yeah.
Do you think we came this far?
And then we went to the next location, and it looked the same as the first location, which when doubt creeped into my mind again, thinking, how is anybody gonna tell this location from the last location?
Was this far in from the road? No, right? It was this far in?
A bunch of rocks down there.
So we stopped about right here. And I looked off over to my right, over this way, and I saw some rocks. Rocks, I don't know, 6 or 8 inches that were kind of stacked in a circle that looked completely out of place. So I turned to Carlo, who was to my left. I said, are those the rocks you're describing? He looked over and said words to the effect, oh my God, yes. He fell to his knees, started crying.
Stay here with me, okay?
I saw what I believed to be a partial leg bone, about 18 inches or so in length, and some other smaller bones, what looked like some vertebrae bones. I could see a human skull, which was right up into this area. About right here, just laying on the ground.
Quite a few remains fairly close together, but missing a lot. And because of the animal activity in the area, her remains could be scattered for a mile. And it made me feel sad for her family, and knowing that anytime a loved one is missing, just the emotional trauma, but also knowing that she was left in such a remote area by herself in the middle of the night.
It always has bothered me that he didn't even have the courtesy to bury her. I looked back over at him and my partner over there. I was angry. This is treacherous wilderness to just leave a body out in the open.
Once he found Nancy's body, his demeanor changed.
Can you do me a big favor?
It depends on what it is, Carlo.
I wish that you can talk to my little one and tell her that. But I feel so sorry about this huge mistake I made.
Okay.
Please do that.
Yeah. I can do that.
And I think he knew he wasn't going to go home again. He was emotional. He appeared to be contrite and sad.
I didn't give her a hug this morning.
And once we had that body, my mind immediately went towards, okay, we have to confront him again. What do we need him to say? And what charges do I need to try and prove? And then when we got back to the interview room back an hour later, then he told us what really happened.
I'm not even lying anymore. I'm just being honest with you guys.
I could see a human skull. After we located Nancy Woodrum's remains, we took Carlo back to the Sheriff's North Station in Templeton, where we were hoping to get a complete story about how he killed Nancy Woodrum.
Investigators already know a lot about where Carlo was before Nancy was killed. And that's because of all the tracking they had been doing of his movements.
This animation shows where Carlo was going throughout the day and evening.
Yes, he's now traveling up to Paso Robles, and there's a church in a commercial building.
Wait, Carlo goes to church on the night Nancy disappeared?
Yes, church was not in session because it's almost midnight, but yes, he pulls into the parking lot and he stays there for 20, 30 minutes.
He was sitting there in a church parking lot, chilling evidence as he's probably pondering whether he's going to go to Nancy's or not.
And now he's way out here on Highway 46, headed towards Nancy's house.
So his phone is pinging along the way, and that's what's sort of drawing out this map and showing all of his movements that night.
That's correct. You'll see the little dots there. He's getting closer to Nancy's residence. So 14 minutes after midnight was the last location data that Google got. The reason that is so important at midnight 14 is a 911 call was attempted at midnight 17. When we got back to the Sheriff's North Station, we went into the same interrogation room and began questioning Carlo again.
So you went into through the sliding glass door?
Yes, that's when they went inside.
He finally admitted what we had suspected. He came into Nancy's house around 12:15 in the morning.
Where was she? Where was she? Was she in bed?
Oh yeah, she was on bed.
Was she awake?
Yeah.
Did she saw you come in?
No.
And then he starts telling a different version about what happened. The real story?
Yes.
She just asked me like, who are you?
And what happened?
They started having sex with her.
He admitted that he went there with the intention of wanting or going to have sex with her.
And Carlo tells you that he believed Nancy had been flirting with him.
She offered him some tamales, and he took it as flirting, which seemed very, very odd.
It was just something like she was being nice with me, and probably that I took it wrong way.
He hit her to wake her up, which confirmed the blood spatter on the dresser and the walls, and he raped her.
So you intended to kill her so that you didn't get caught for the rape, right?
Yes.
He goes on to admit that he suffocated Nancy with a pillow.
Yes, he did.
After you finished having sex with her, how long did it take you to put the pillow over her face?
45 minutes. She didn't suffer. It was so quick.
He admitted to raping her, to smothering her to death, but for some reason, he wouldn't admit that he hung up the 911 call.
And you're sure that when you came in, she didn't try and dial 911 and you took the phone away from her?
You know what? I don't remember. I don't think she did. Yeah, I don't think she tried.
Are you really sure?
I mean, I was drunk and to be honest, I don't remember. I don't remember that part.
How long were you in her house for?
I was at 40 minutes. Yeah.
And what did you do during those 40 minutes after you had sex with her?
I went to put it back on the truck, on the tailgate, and I just drove away.
The bedding that was found on the side of La Panza Road, Carlo confirmed with us that he had wrapped Nancy Woodrum's body up in some of that bedding, that was what blew out of his pickup as he was driving out to the Carrizo Plains.
Is this the entire truth?
Yes, I'm not even lying anymore. I'm just being honest with you guys. Now I had to pay the consequences.
It appeared that he was sad that this had happened and that his confession was cathartic in a way and was bringing him some degree of peace.
Would you be willing to write like an apology letter to Nancy's children and grandkids?
And at the end of the interview, he actually wrote an apology letter to Nancy's family and an apology to his own family within that same letter. And once he wrote the apology letter, the detectives placed him under arrest.
You were under arrest for murder.
What was that like?
It was a huge relief. This clip brings back, a lot of memories of, at that moment, justice is going to be served for Nancy Woodrum.
I could still see the emotion in your eyes.
This was just a really sad case. This case was just a little more personal for me.
Detective Cole presents to you a photograph and a name. Carlo Fuentes Flores.
Okay.
I was like,
You were
who?
like, who?
Who?
Who's this?
We had no idea who it was.
How could it possibly be the painter?
Right. It kind of just opened up more questions. Like Aaron said, why? Just, why?
They found her body. What is going through your mind?
I think there was relief. I just wanted to find her. We needed to have some closure. There's a lot of people who never get answers. And I was just thankful that we had answers.
I mean, it's the worst case scenario, but knowing that we found her and she's not suffering anymore, that was a comfort. But it's still something that's it's a hard pill to swallow.
It was one of those quiet moments where you start to cry and just, she just got so cheated. Finally got a chance to relax and do what she wants and retire, and then this happens to her. I just thought, how very, very unfair.
Now, all that remains is a trial. Prosecutors decide not to go for the death penalty, but they're confident they've got a winning case. Now, the defense has something in store, and if the judge buys it, everything could totally unravel.
Hello, this is a prepaid call from
Carlo.
an inmate at the San Luis Obispo jail.
Hello? Hello, Crystal?
Carlo?
Yes.
I was responsible for monitoring any jail phone calls that took place involving Carlo Fuentes Flores. The ones that were of particular interest would have been the phone calls with his wife, Crystal.
Did you do this, Carlo?
Yes, honey, I'm so sorry. I don't
Why?
know. I don't know why that day. That wasn't even me. I was drunk.
Yeah, I know, Carlo, but
They're gonna find
you did
out they're working on
you
this
did
stuff.
like the worst thing in the whole world.
I know.
You did
But,
a couple of bad things mixed together, which is just crazy. Crazy.
Despite the compelling evidence from the confession in Fuentes Flores' police interview and admissions to his wife in recorded jail calls, he pleads not guilty. And his defense attorney has a strategy that could upend the case.
The defense team presented a very spirited defense centered on a motion to suppress his recorded interview. Carlo spoke English with his wife. He spoke fantastic English, but he was a native Spanish speaker. And so the defense challenged that the Miranda warnings should have been given in Spanish, or he should have had an interpreter present.
We wanted him to understand and make sure that he understood what he was doing. And so we had set it up. Do you understand what I'm saying? If there's at any point you don't, please ask.
If you have any questions, the way I say stuff, the way I ask you stuff, please tell me. It's
All right.
I know it's something that I do. It's probably not you, but as long as you can understand me, if you don't, just let me know, okay?
All right.
Ultimately, the judge denied the defense's motion to suppress and found that the detectives preserved his rights and that they properly Mirandized him and interviewed him in English.
He confessed, and then we were able to find her, and then thought, okay, we're done. Like, this is the end. But no, now there's going to be a huge trial.
So this case is set for trial in January 2022. And we show up for day one, and I see his attorney go and speak with him. And his attorney comes back and he says, well, he wants to just plead to life without parole. He doesn't want to put his family through the publicity of a trial.
Normally in a plea deal, the defendant waives his right to an appeal. But Fuentes Flores wants to preserve his right. So the judge proposes something called a slow plea. The prosecutor will still be able to present the evidence, but in the end, the judge is going to find Fuentes Flores guilty on all charges.
So the judge reviewed all of the evidence I submitted, and I submitted his recorded interviews, his jail calls. I wanted to make sure everything was in there just in case. And the judge found him guilty of first-degree murder and the special circumstance that the murder was committed during a rape.
The man who killed a Paso Robles woman and led investigators to her body will spend life in prison. He was found guilty of killing Woodrum during a rape and burglary, which means he isn't eligible for parole.
He was given an appropriate sentence in prison, so I think in that way that justice was served, although the family will truly never have closure as a result of what took place.
What about the family?
What about what?
Their family. Yeah, their family.
I know.
They're never going to get to see her again. This is so stupid. So stupid, so senseless.
Aaron, you read the victim impact statement in court. What did you and your family want to say to Carlo?
Just let him know how he changed our lives. You know, not the fact that he took her life for nothing. Just to let him know that it sickened us and what was the point. You know, because now he's going to live behind bars for the rest of his life for one foolish night.
People, I feel, remember Nancy as a strong woman with the biggest heart. She survived a lot of heartaches, and it made her stronger, but it made her heart beautiful. The memorial was probably the most beautiful thing. It was out at a vineyard on the way out to Nancy's property. It's a beautiful place. There was hundreds of people there, and it was just a testament to the person that she was.
These photographs were all displayed at your mother's memorial, right?
Yes. They really show who she was. She loved outdoors, she loved the horses, she loved being in the barn, going camping with the grandkids. She was an amazing person. She loved God. She wanted that to be first in her life, and she wanted people to know that. And her hope that she had to see her kids again. This is the horse that my mom used to ride. Her name is Montana. She loved Montana. My daughter and I now go out on the horses together. And I usually ride Montana and my daughter rides Fire, so we've passed that down. What I once did with my mom, now I do with my daughter, and that's a good feeling. She was a huge part of our life. She was my best friend. We did everything together. Every time I ride, I think of my mom.
Carrying on that beautiful tradition, David. Detective Clint Cole says he still feels a connection to Nancy's case and keeps in touch with her daughter Amanda, reaching out to her on May 5th of every year, the anniversary of Nancy's death.
We should also point out tonight, Deborah, that Carlo Fuentes Flores appealed his conviction. It was denied by the California Court of Appeals in July of 2023. That's our program for tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm David Muir.
And I'm Deborah Roberts. From all of us here at 2020 and ABC News, good night.
A man in a leather hood entered the window of a house in Citrus Heights and sneaked up on a 16-year-old girl watching television alone in the den. He pointed a knife at her and issued a chilling warning. Make one move and you'll be silent forever, and I'll be gone in the dark.
Crime after crime, it was that same terrifying MO.
I saw a flashlight shining down the hall, and I thought, now that's odd.
The leather gloves are really remembered because they made kind of a sound, you know, when they moved.
He started ripping sheets or towels, I'm not sure, but it was very methodical and it was very slow.
It was a time when a vast area was terrified of one evil being.
This was a criminal who went by many different names.
He was known as the East Area Rapist in Sacramento County, the original Night Stalker in Orange County.
A 29-year-old wife was raped while her tied-up husband had to listen.
A 17-year-old girl was attacked here. He would put his knees on the victim's chest, and he had a gun in one hand, a flashlight in the other.
Peepings, prowlings, stalking. Over 100 burglaries.
Police think he checked the home out before he strikes.
He put plates on the man's back, and he told the man, if I hear these rattle, I will kill your wife.
At least 13 homicides.
This is a sustained campaign of cruelty and viciousness that lasted for decades.
Welcome to Crime Scene, a podcast that examines real-life crimes. I'm Michelle McNamara of TrueCrimeDiary.com.
Michelle McNamara was a true crime blogger.
She was a writer and producer. She was a citizen detective and a true crime writer.
Very much being a mom during the day, very much writing about true crime at night. She was working on all different types of unsolved cases. Then she found a case that really dug its claws into her.
What turned him on was terror. The East Area Rapist, original Night Stalker, is California's most prolific serial offender. He murdered more people than the Zodiac Killer, but has little name recognition. Partly that's because he moved between communities, and his crimes spanned 10 years.
Everything about it is mystery, and it has such a boogeyman aspect to it.
Michelle used to talk about this case, and the thing that boggled her mind is that people didn't know about it. This was one of the most horrific serial killers in history, and nobody talked about him.
It's summer, 1976. It was the bicentennial. It's all about happy days. Laverne and Shirley.
Incorporated.
In those days, the middle class in America was thriving.
We felt safe, but the crime rates were going up.
But suburban Sacramento was considered a safe place in the mid-70s.
You could ride your bike all over town.
My parents would just tell us be home before dark.
People didn't lock their doors. They left their windows open, especially people close to the river. We'd get the Delta breeze.
Everything changed in the summer of 1976.
An attack occurred in Rancho Cordova.
A young lady woke up, and there's a guy standing in the doorway. He blindfolded her, tied her up,
and then sexually assaults her. This is the first known sexual assault attributed to the man we know as the East Area Rapist.
Nobody knew about the first attack except the police. The first attack, the second, the third, the fourth.
When this first started in Sacramento, a lot of the people didn't know what was going on. They didn't put it in the paper at the time.
The press had not yet covered it because Sacramento County Sheriff's Department asked them not to.
There was a reason for that. That if you put it in there, the suspect's going to know that you're looking for him.
At the time the rape started happening in Sacramento Sheriff's Department didn't have a specialized sexual assault unit. Just whoever had a free caseload, that could take on another case. And so I did not become involved with these cases until rape number 5, when it was Jane Carson.
I was 30 years old. I was married with a 3-year-old son. My husband was stationed at McClellan Air Force Base.
Jane was a nurse. She was a colonel in the Air Force Reserve.
It was about 6:30 in the morning. My 3-year-old son hopped in bed with me for a snuggle. I heard the garage door close, and I knew my husband had just left for work. I saw a flashlight shining down the hall, and I thought, now that's odd, and I screamed out to my husband, "What have you forgotten?" And there was no answer.
Then the rapist, all dressed in ski mask and dark clothes, shining a flashlight at her.
He told us with clenched teeth, "Shut up, or I'll kill you."
He tells her to turn over, and he's going to tie her up.
He gags us, both of us. He blindfolds us, and he ties us up with shoelaces, very tight. His next move was to move my son. I was already scared to death. But this is where the fear really took place.
All she's thinking about is the life of her little boy and saving him.
After the rape was over, praise the Lord, he moved my son back next to me. I could feel his body, and then I was relieved. So we hobbled around to the front fence, screamed for a neighbor. She called the police. And then Carol Daly, the female detective, showed up. And I call her my angel.
One of my great heroes of this story is Carol Daly. She was an investigator for the Sheriff Department in Sacramento. She was asked to go out and interview the victims.
Maybe something that the man said, or something that he did to you, or something that you recall hearing.
Through that process, she was able to glean a lot of information, like what he would say to his victims. And sometimes he would call out a name.
In one of the cases, the victim said that she heard him crying and saying Bonnie.
For years, detectives didn't know what to make of this name. Who's Bonnie?
Bonnie was not a victim, but a mystery woman at the center of the case.
Bonnie was the girlfriend and then fiance of Joseph DeAngelo.
One of the first women to get a real glimpse of the psychopathy behind Joe DeAngelo was Bonnie Caldwell.
She's 18, really smart, going to a community college, studying nursing. And she's in the middle of the quad, and this older guy ambles up to her and begins a conversation.
Bonnie talked about her relationship with Joe DeAngelo in the HBO docuseries All Be Gone in the Dark.
He was very gregarious, outgoing to all my friends. We'd been together close to a year. He gave me a high solitaire engagement ring. And he told me that we're going to be married.
They were both students at the time. He was studying criminal justice. So Joe was someone who initially was impressive to Bonnie. He was exciting. He had a motorcycle. He taught her to shoot. But the longer she dated him, the more trouble began materializing.
He takes her on thrill rides. And this is where the relationship starts to show its hand with Joe.
Joe, without saying a word to me, just turned right, went down a very steep bank that I had no idea what he was doing.
He's obviously thrilled not just by the speed, but he's thrilled by Bonnie's terror.
The rules were never for him. So many of the things that we did together, he pushed me toward fear.
As they're riding on a motorcycle, the German Shepherd comes out from the side of the road and nips at the tires, and Joe swings a foot out and breaks the dog's neck instantly. There's such an efficiency to his movement that stuns her.
Eventually, Bonnie said, "I don't want to be with you anymore."
She actually broke their engagement. He showed up at her house in the middle of the night. He had a gun, and he told her that she had to marry him.
Just inches from my face, there was the barrel of a gun pointing at me, and it was Joe. What he said to me was, "Get your clothes on, get dressed, we're going to Reno, and we're going to get married tonight."
Her dad was able to break it up and send Joe on his way. I think it's a foreshadowing that he was going to use violence against people in the future.
Bonnie breaks her engagement with Joe D'Angelo, and within just a few years, strange crimes start happening in Rancho Cordova.
He would empty female underwear drawers and perfectly line up the underwear down the hallway.
It's all control and power. This is my house now. These are my items now. He's the king of the house.
Every obsession needs a room of its own. Mine was strewn with coloring paper on which I'd scribbled down California penal codes in crayon. It was around midnight on July 3rd, 2012, when I opened a document I'd compiled listing all the unique items he'd stolen over the years.
He would take mementos, almost like they were trophies from inside the home.
He would steal rings with engravings on them.
He stole driver's license, he stole photos from albums.
There is a fantasy component about these crimes.
I still have a part of you. I have your jewelry, I have your driver's license, I have, something that means something to you. And now I own it.
He was a serial rapist known as the Ear, attacking women and girls. First in East Sacramento County. This place meant something to him. He attacked here first and kept coming back. Was it home? Some of the investigators, especially the ones who worked the case in the beginning, think so.
We were always trying to figure out why victims were chosen and why the locations were chosen.
For Joe D'Angelo, this was his home, right in his own backyard. He lived in 3 or 4 houses in this exact same area where many of the rapes were committed.
He grew up in Rancho Cordova. He was familiar with the playgrounds, the schools, the empty lots. This is the home of the first documented rape that occurred in Sacramento County. He was very agile. He could jump over fences. He knew which way to go from whatever neighborhood he was in. He knew the best way to get in and out.
He knew this area like the back of his hand. He grew up there.
Joseph D'Angelo Jr. grew up the son of a master sergeant in the Air Force who moved around a lot.
We met Joe when he was 13 years old. My father was stationed at Mather Air Force Base, and then his father was transferred there, and we shared a duplex.
The girl who became very close to him at the time, Judy, described a very lonely boy.
He was missing a family. His mother and father had split when he was young.
At a very young age, he was neglected. He and his siblings would be locked in the closet and then beaten by the father.
Per his siblings, Joe D'Angelo received the worst of his vitriol and anger when they were growing up.
Joe was always over at our house, and he just became a good family friend. He never talked about himself. He never talked about any problems he might have. He never discussed anything that was bothering him. They started reporting, the peeping Toms here in Rancho. And I remember I was in the bedroom and I was asleep, and I had this feeling. I woke up because I had this feeling somebody was there. And when I looked up and glanced towards the window, I saw this outlined figure. I didn't do anything to let them know I saw them, that I was aware of them. So the next morning I came in here and I says, Dad, I says, somebody was peeking in my window last night. And he says, what? And I says, yeah. And there was footprints out there in the dirt, 2 distinct footprints there.
It's very common for sexual offenders to start out, particularly in adolescence, as peepers or voyeurs that are creeping around the neighborhood, looking in windows, watching women undress, almost like a training ground.
Many of us had never seen anything like this before in our career. His whole thing was terror. It wasn't the sex. It was the terror that he wanted to put in these people that was his #1 priority.
His victims ranged in age from 13, I think, to 39.
Out of the first 10 attacks, 6 of those were juveniles.
Oftentimes, sex offenders or sexual serial murderers will start out with, I guess, easier victims that are younger, that are more vulnerable, victims that he can control.
My name is Chris Pedretti. I was 15. I was a kid, just a normal kid, cartwheels in the front yard, and really not a care in the world. It was not ever even a thought that our world might be unsafe.
So it was a week before Christmas. She'd been left home alone.
I was supposed to go to a high school dance, and it was the last day before Christmas vacation. I put a pizza in the oven, and I went to go play the piano. I remember hearing a noise, and I stopped playing and listened. Didn't hear it again. No, it was nothing. So I kept playing. It was very shortly after that, probably seconds, that he approached me.
She turned around and she saw a man in a ski mask.
I froze. The brain stopped thinking at that point. I mean, I just went straight into survival mode. I don't remember thinking at that point anything other than kind of turning into a robot. Just do what he says, do what he says. It was like Chris had left the body, and it was just the body left.
That individual led her to the back patio. She tied her up.
I didn't know about rape. I certainly didn't know about sex. What he did to me, what he took from me, I can't ever get it back. He kind of ruined my childhood. You know, he took it away.
Everybody knew something was going on, but nobody knew exactly what.
The sheriff decided that we would hold community forums. I had no idea there were going to be several hundred people that would show up.
If we have a gun, could we shoot him? Knowing what I know about this man, if I had a gun, I definitely would shoot him. And I would not shoot to injure, I would shoot to take care of him.
He liked this. He liked the police being on edge. He liked the town being on edge.
I have a gun, but I still don't feel safe being, at home alone.
Law enforcement was bracing for more attacks as his rampage of violence continued. His tactics were changing, and no one knew what he would do next.
So I have to admit, I'm scared to death.
The young girl made one bad move after another. Her attitude was much too inviting. She should never have stopped to window shop at night.
In the 1970s, when a woman reported rape, she was shamed, she was blamed. Often she was ostracized by her own community.
Rape cases really weren't considered serious. They were misdemeanor. You had to make an arrest within a year, or else they were not prosecuted. Even if an arrest was made, the defense was always it was the victim's fault.
Rape was such a prevalent crime back in those days that there were multiple serial rapists operating in California.
217 were reported last year. That's about one every day and a half.
In the Bay Area, you had the stinky rapist who smelled like diesel fuel.
I had pillowcase rapist. We had the key car rapist.
When the East Area Rapist became active in Sacramento, he quickly upstaged all the other rapists in the area because of how terrifying his MO was.
Concern over rape is mounting in this community.
There was panic in the city of Sacramento. The fact that they couldn't catch this guy just ignited the city in fear.
No one knows where or when he'll strike again.
They were getting guard dogs, they were putting in alarm systems in their homes.
Have the dog in the house, the big dog.
The worst thing is not knowing. All you can do is take every possible precaution and then hope that he gets caught before he gets to you.
Every day in the newspaper, it was number 8, it was number 10, it was number 15, 20. You know, it just kept going on and on and on.
It seemed like every time investigators thought they were getting close, he would disappear. But he kept attacking again and again.
He was elusive, like a puff of smoke in the night.
Detective Carol Daly wanted this serial rapist behind bars, and she was relentless in her pursuit of him, but constantly frustrated by the fact that they couldn't catch him.
The officers in this department are working on this case are frustrated because there's just no evidence to give any firm leads. We're doing everything humanly possible to catch this man.
He was a phantom.
Descriptions ranged pretty widely. One person thought he was Hispanic.
And now all of a sudden, he's blonde hair, blue-eyed. There are like 8, 9, 10 drawings of him, and they have completely changed.
The best descriptions that we had were his height and his possible weight. We knew he wore a size 9 shoe.
When the police were taking the victim's statements, many of the women described his penis as being very, very small.
We said, all right, if he is so underendowed, we went to a doctor who specialized in what I would call infantile penises to see if he had any patients that came in, and we didn't have any luck there.
It's a very serious situation. I think it's very dangerous.
The last thing I think of when I'm going to bed is I look at the doorway in my bedroom and I think that he could be standing there.
Detective Daly was following every lead.
We filled out a long background form for the victims. Where did they go to school? What did they look like? What age were they? You know, what was their build? There was no pattern among any of the victims because he was just prowling. He would see them and follow them home.
Margaret Wardlow, she was just 13 years old when she was attacked by the East Area Rapists.
Margaret was probably the strongest young victim I have ever talked to.
Growing up in Sacramento was great. Where we lived was ideal. It was right next to the American River. Go down there with my dog after school, go fishing. Totally felt safe.
Margaret had a curiosity about her. She wanted to know about the East Area Rapists.
I was a reader of everything I could get my hands on that had to do with this individual. Like, what was making this guy tick? Why was he doing this?
She herself became a victim. I believe there was a pre-wired strength in her mind that helped her survive this attack.
It was a school night, just my mother and myself. I went to bed at like a regular school night hour. I was awoken about 2:30 in the morning with a flashlight in my face. I thought it was a joke. I thought my mom had asked him to like come in and wake me up and scare me or something.
As he tied her up and then went into the mother's room, Margaret knew that either her or her mother were going to be the victim.
The rapist tied up her mother and put plates on her back as a warning device.
He did that with so many of the victims when there was more than one person in the house. If he heard anybody moving, he was right back and told them, don't move, I'm gonna kill you, I'll kill you.
Putting the dishes on someone's back, he knows he has to do something, either hurt them, flee. So as much of the bravado as he's trying to convey, he's scared of the physical confrontation.
A little voice inside of me said, you know, You get out of a lot of stuff, Margaret, but you're not gonna get out of this one. The whole time he'd been threatening me. He'd been saying, do you want to die? He wanted fear. He wanted to see fear in me.
This is your psychological sadist. He is enjoying controlling that woman like that.
This guy was so beyond the pale, and that was why Michelle was so interested in him, is because he was so frightening.
The way he walks around people's houses and the way he destroys them and sort of hangs out and eats, there's something so psychologically fascinating about that to me. It's like he got to the emotional center of people's lives and just wanted to destroy that.
Michelle caught the bug. She started going down the rabbit holes in this case. At this point, instead of writing a book, she was investigating the case.
I'm obsessed. It's not healthy. I know the strangest details about him. I know his blood type. I know his penis size. He vaulted fences. He escaped foot chases. But I believe it's the rare moments when he was human that will be his downfall in the end.
As time went on, this East Area rapist started to crisscross Sacramento, attacking women home alone or women with their kids in the middle of the night.
He seemed to be expanding what his capabilities were when he was carrying out these crimes.
He became much more aggressive in his tactics. He did more horrible things than I can even describe.
This tells us that the offender is adapting and learning as he is committing crimes. He really messes with people's minds, both the investigators and the victims.
Part of the thrill of the game for him was a kind of connect-the-dots puzzle he played with people. He stole 2 packs of Winston cigarettes from the first victim and left them outside the 4th victim's house. Junk jewelry stolen from a neighbor 2 weeks earlier was left at the 5th victim's house. It was a power play, a signal of ubiquity. I am both nowhere and everywhere. You may not think you have something in common with your neighbor, but you do. Me.
Michelle started as a blogger talking about cases that no one else was paying attention to and trying to get people motivated to look at those cases.
The case dragged me under quickly. Curiosity turned to clawing hunger. I was on the hunt, absorbed by a click fever that connected my propulsive tapping with a dopamine rush. I wasn't alone. I found a group of hardcore seekers who congregated on an online message board and exchanged clues and theories on the case.
Citizen sleuths, they are ordinary people that go to work, they go home, they put their kids to bed, and then they go on the computer. And they spend hours and hours trying to solve certain crimes.
My name is Paul Haynes. I was Michelle McNamara's research collaborator. When I first began learning about the case, there was a specific forum dedicated to the East Area Rapist. It was the most active forum on that website.
Paul Haynes was a writer living in Florida, and Michelle recognized that he had a great proclivity for digging into old archives and things. It was a case that a lot of citizen detectives got into because there were so many clues.
Earons wasn't a supervillain. He was a man, a guy with habits and traits and preferences that, with enough examination, should shine like Hansel's breadcrumbs in the woods.
My name is Kay Gilbraith, and I call myself a researcher. I started seeing patterns emerging to me where I became convinced it was solvable, because all of the crimes had common bonds.
He was leaving ligatures at the scene with this particular knot.
He would eat food out of the victims' refrigerators. I was spending every waking hour trying to find men who fit the criteria. And it was at that time that I first connected with Michelle.
It's a fascinating community. I had been on those boards for a while following the story because everyone had such great information.
Michelle's quest was to get this case solved. She just had an abiding curiosity in letting the details lead us to the perpetrator.
The East Area Rapist would target not people, but neighborhoods. You can see the proximity of these homes to green belts like drainage ditches and creeks and canals.
We believe he used the canal as an escape route, which ran along the back of so many properties. He was a great escape artist.
These are passageways that this killer used to surveil the residents unseen, cloaked by the darkness of these green belts.
He was able to look over those fences, look into those homes, look at what time people ate dinner. I mean, he knew what time the husband left.
The Sacramento Sheriff's Office has invested more than 40,000 man-hours in the search for the East Area rapist.
Sacramento would have a helicopter up in the sky, and they all knew it was because they were chasing the East Area rapist.
It was terrible. It was terrible to hear that. Well, he didn't like it either. And it turns out that he served in Vietnam. He left Sacramento because of that helicopter. And then these things started up in the East Bay of San Francisco.
There are two things known about the rapist. One is he has never been caught in a home where there was a man present. The other is he's never been in a home where there has been a big dog.
The East Area rapist worked on challenges. Everything he saw in the paper, if we said he didn't do something, he did it the next time.
When the newspapers reported that he was just attacking single females, he took this as a challenge.
At attack number 16, he started an attack with a man present, and then 2/3 of the attacks he does since then has a man present. He is purposefully choosing couples.
My name's Gay Hardwick.
And my name's Bob Hardwick. And we've been married 41 years this August. Happily married 41 years.
Bob and Gay Hardwick were a couple living in Stockton, California.
We had picked out a home in one of the little picture-perfect tree-lined streets. We were just happy in our new home, living together. The day of our attack was March 18th, 1978, and we were attack number 31. We had gone out to dinner and a movie, normal Friday night, and we came home around 10 o'clock and went to bed. Later that night, we were awakened by very bright light right in our faces and a voice saying, "Wake up, wake up."
The attack on Bob and Gay Hardwick was much like all the other attacks in that he confronted Bob and Gay when they were in bed. He ordered her at gunpoint to bind Bob.
Nothing you can do when there's a .357 Magnum pointed at your head.
He then bound Gay. He retied Bob.
Turns him over, puts the plates on his back as a warning device.
Things would go silent for a period of time. And then as soon as they moved, he was right in their face. "Move and I'll kill you."
Ultimately, he moved Gay into the living room where he sexually assaulted her.
You're convinced at that moment that this is not a full human being that you're dealing with.
He can not only humiliate a woman who's about to rape, but he can also completely, in his mind, emasculate her partner, putting him in a position where he is helpless and has to listen to what's going on in a different room.
These attacks are happening in the macho 1970s. $6 million man.
We have the capability to make the world's first bionic man.
Oh, talk to me, good buddy.
And Burt Reynolds, these are the icons. And the men were not looked at as victims. They were looked at as just being weak for not being able to protect their wives and their girlfriends.
I never talked to anybody about it over the years. I just wanted to put it out of my mind,
It was, we're going to get through this. We're going to get back to normal. And you don't ever really make it to normal.
It was tough, but I loved her, and I said we're going to get through it.
Our home never felt the same again. Every surface that you could think of was covered in fingerprint dust. It just looked like a smoke bomb had been set off in our house. It was contaminated and ruined for us.
He wasn't out attacking people on lovers' lanes or in parks. He was attacking people where they feel the most safe, in bed with their partner in their home. And he was able to say, you know what? I have so much power, I can take all of that security away and devastate your life.
Why couldn't they catch him? Somehow, he was always one step ahead of law enforcement, and they wondered, could he be one of us?
After the East Area Rapist would terrorize these women, sometimes he would call them and taunt them.
Hello? Hello?
This rapist did not stop with just the assault of that night. He terrorized them their whole lives.
This is that psychological sadist at work. He is getting off on continuing to cause fear in his victim.
I'm Michelle McNamara of TrueCrimeDiary.com. Larry Crompton is a retired lieutenant for the Contra Costa Sheriff's Department. He worked on the rapist task force in the 70s.
How optimistic are you that he may be caught one day?
Very, very optimistic.
I had worked many crimes while I was on the department, but none of them were really like this. I knew what these people went through, and I knew what the family was going through. I couldn't let it go. And for many years, it was me. What did I miss? What did I do wrong? Why didn't I catch him?
Helicopters, roadblocks, citizen patrols taking down plate numbers, hypnotists, psychics, nothing. You were a scent and shoe impressions. Bloodhounds and detectives tracked both. They led away. They led nowhere.
He next shows up down in Modesto in June of 1978. He attacks a couple down there. And then 48 hours later, he's up in the town of Davis, over 110 driving miles away, and is attacking a UC Davis co-ed there.
Early Wednesday morning, the infamous masked man made his 44th attack on a young couple living in Mission San Jose.
It was as if he knew what police were doing. And all along, many of the detectives who were working the case thought that maybe he was a police officer or military. And ultimately, that turned out to be true.
You should have seen me coming.
One of the things that's important to remember when you're looking at Joseph D'Angelo is he actually graduated with an associate degree in police science.
He had told Bonnie that his aspiration was to join the California Highway Patrol.
You should have seen me coming.
He studied evidence and he studied crime scene.
He went to Northern California and he applied with the Auburn Police Department and was hired there. And then that's when he started his rapes.
He actually started out committing crimes as a teenager. At some point, he even blew up a dog with a firework, killed the dog while he was committing a residential burglary.
You should have seen me coming.
It makes sense that somebody who has a need for control, wants to be in power, would be attracted to a position that allows him to have that every single day.
When I was working the cases, I thought, he's got to be in law enforcement.
The first clue was in attack number 3 in Sacramento. He had gloves on to protect from fingerprints, and he's got a gun in one hand and a padded baton.
You had better catch him. He is going to kill. He wants to kill.
It was never enough to commit the horrible crimes. It always had to be, and let me do something more.
We all want to think that we would recognize a serial killer based on how this person looks.
I wonder if he was out stalking his next victim. I don't know, because everything seems so normal.
The scariest aspects of serial killers is they don't look different.
From the very beginning, I knew DNA was going to solve this case.
Police had been sitting on this genetic fingerprint for 4 decades.
Holy smokes, this is like the big break.
He's been living there under everybody's noses.
This is the Golden State Killer?
I just want to tell you, buddy, to rot in hell.
Michelle McNamara was a true crime blogger.
She was a citizen detective and a true crime writer.
She was talking to her publisher about writing a book that didn't have an ending.
My interest in crime has personal roots. The unsolved murder of a neighbor when I was 14 sparked a fascination with cold cases. What gripped me was the specter of that question mark where the killer's face should be. I need to see his face. He loses his power when we know his face.
When I'm puzzling over the details of an unsolved crime, I'm like a rat in a maze given a task. The world narrows, the search propels. I felt in the truest sense of the word gripped. I had a murder habit and it was bad. I would feed it for the rest of my life.
I considered Michelle McNamara a friend. She impacted the Golden State Killer case. One way we're able to keep on investigating the case is to have public interest, to have the online interest, and she helped push that.
On a sleepless night last July, I Googled a description of a pair of cufflinks he stole. Then a jolt of recognition. There they were. I bought them immediately. The best thing to do, I knew, was to turn the cufflinks over to an authority on the killer.
As soon as I saw those cufflinks, I thought, this is pretty astonishing. I photographed those and sent those to surviving victims because it was potentially a very good lead in the case.
Unfortunately, the cufflinks didn't pan out. The victims looked at them and they weren't the cufflinks that were stolen.
And she was devastated. I don't know if Michelle was convinced she could solve the case, but I believe that she was convinced she could make a difference and that she wanted to do it for the victims.
He forced the woman at knife point to tie up her boyfriend, then he tied her up and raped her.
The East Area rapist has struck 40 times in the last 2.5 years, and he hasn't been caught yet.
He started inflicting real physical pain on the victims, like punching, giving black eyes.
One of the most sadistic things I think that he would do would be to say to them, I'm going to cut off a piece of your wife and bring it back to you.
We knew that he was becoming more and more angry.
As fear in the community intensified, Detective Carol Daly held regular public forums.
One thing I want to emphasize, ladies, is for you not to be polite. If you are going to defend yourself, you injure him enough to incapacitate him in any way that you can.
I started working with these cases, and I thought, if I can talk to one of the people that deal with these rapists, maybe I can get into the head of what I'm looking for. Vacaville Medical Center is where they have rapists that have been convicted.
The men were asked what they thought was motivating the East Area rapists.
The mere fact that he ties his victims up has to have them completely submissive. You can sense the conquest he had.
You're not what you think you are, and you won't accept it, so you strike out to prove to them that you are, but in reality you aren't. And until you face that, you're going to keep on going and going.
If I'm willing to kill you, the first move you make, you're going to be dead.
The doctor told me, you had better catch him. He is going to kill. He wants to kill.
He first becomes a burglar, and then he progresses to sexual assault, and then proceeds to escalate to murder.
The East Area Rapist disappeared from Northern California in July of 1979. He showed up in Santa Barbara in October of '79, and shortly thereafter, he starts killing.
The Pacific Ocean was warming up, an inviting churn of white caps making its way towards soft sand and an endless line of 100-foot palm trees. Golden teenage boys with blank hair and effortless muscles headed for the water with their boards in a gait the locals called the Surfer Bounce. This was Santa Barbara's magic time.
Dr. Offerman was an orthopedic surgeon. He had begun dating a psychologist named Alexandra Manning.
On the morning of December 30th, 1979, some friends of Robert Offerman's had shown up at his condo for a tennis game. There was no answer at the door.
I went in the sliding door and looked around the living room.
On the floor, there were Christmas ornaments that had fallen off on the ground.
Some balloons right by the sliding door, which I thought he would leave it there, so we knew something was wrong. So I took a right towards his bedroom, and that's when I saw Miss Manning on the bed, and he was on the floor.
Offerman and Manning both were shot and killed.
It was the holidays. As authorities processed the crime scene, they stepped around a turkey carcass wrapped in cellophane that had been discarded on the patio. They concluded that at some point the killer had opened the refrigerator and helped himself to Dr. Offerman's leftover Christmas dinner.
It was never enough to commit the horrible crimes. It always had to be, and let me do something more. Let me go into your refrigerator and eat your holiday meal. The level of depravity that this man had and the execution of it was despicable and shocking.
Larry Crompton, who led the EAR task force in Contra Costa County, reached out to Santa Barbara investigators and told them this sounds like the East Area Rapist that we've been dealing with.
When I called Santa Barbara and talked to the lieutenant and said, I heard that you had a double homicide, would like to know about it because we think it's our rapist that is down there. And he said, don't know what you're talking about. Haven't had anything like that. Nope.
Law enforcement agencies weren't necessarily as connected as they are now. I think there was still this thought that these are isolated instances throughout California.
And that was it. It was so frustrating.
I am sure that Larry Crompton called many jurisdictions because he truly believed that the rapist would move on and become a killer.
Santa Barbara is an enclave of rich people. You've got Ronald Reagan. You've got people that are worried about their property values. They don't want news about a double murder in a house going wide. Pretty soon it gets off the front page.
He gets a taste for not only murdering people, but murdering them after these prolonged, terrifying times in their homes.
In 1979, a new and terrifying chapter. He starts a killing spree.
2 double murders in Gallia, the 1 double murder in Ventura, the murder in Irvine, and the double murder in Dana Point.
The rampage of violence was brutal and unstoppable.
4 horrible murders within a 6-block radius in a suburban middle-class neighborhood.
We knew it was the same person, but we couldn't prove it.
Profilers of that day said, I know of no one who does what this offender does.
I thought once he started killing, there's no way he can stop, and he's going to continue to do it.
Most violent criminals smash through life like human sledgehammers. They're caught easily, but every so often a blue moon surfaces. A snow leopard slinks by.
After 1981, we don't have an attack for 5 years.
Well, I think people slow down in life. You don't have that sort of energy to be prowling. Like, you literally can't be out at 3 a.m. like running across roofs because you're not 18 anymore.
I don't believe that his sexual deviances went away, but I can believe that he found other, less risky ways of satisfying those urges.
Could he have moved out of the state, out of the country? Could he have died, got medicated? I mean, I don't know.
1981, Joe D'Angelo became a father. The first of his 3 daughters was born. The second of his 3 daughters was born in '86. And then his 3rd daughter was born in 1989.
He had a wife who was a lawyer. He lived a middle-class existence.
He sent all his girls through Montessori schools, and he would take them to their different sports events, the horseback riding, the roller skating.
We all want to think that we would recognize a serial killer based on how this person looks. And yet, so often, this is somebody who's living in the community, who knows his neighbors, and I think that is one of the scariest aspects of serial killers, is they don't look different from other people.
My sister and I, Melody, used to take turns going out and babysitting while Sharon was in school. And I didn't start thinking about it till after he was arrested. Because when they started showing all these dates, I'm going, oh my goodness. I wonder if he was out stalking his next victim. I don't know.
It's been 5 years with no more rapes or murders by Joseph D'Angelo.
For some reason, he runs across beautiful 18-year-old Janelle Cruz and can't help himself and kills her.
Janelle was kind of a shy girl. She was very pretty, very popular.
The brief life of Janelle Cruz was no less tragic than her death. Her biological father was long out of the picture.
Her parents had gone to a cruise with her 6-year-old brother, and she was staying at the residence alone.
For the first time, left my daughter alone, because that was another thing that I never did, because I was worried that if I was gone, that something might happen.
Janelle Cruz had had a friend over to the house and heard noises in the backyard.
They got up to inspect that, saw nothing.
And sometime that night, Janelle was confronted by an intruder. She was raped, and then she was bludgeoned to death.
And I got that telephone call that every mother and any family member is just devastated by.
The Janelle case just felt like such an outlier because he had decided to go after couples, and then he had stopped for a really long time, and then he attacks Janelle. And then that seemingly is his last attack.
Some think you died or went to prison. Not me. I think you bailed when the world began to change.
In the 1970s, there was no DNA.
The investigators had evidence, but couldn't connect the crime scenes. They needed the science to catch up.
DNA didn't enter the forensic landscape until about 1986, 1987.
It would take 15 years for DNA to finally link the Northern California East Area Rapist series with the Southern California homicides, as all being done by one man.
I was immediately on the phone to Larry Poole down at Orange County Sheriff's Office, and we're talking about, holy smokes, this is like the big break.
But detectives still had no idea who he was.
I got a little excited maybe in the first 18 to 24 months, but over the years, I chronicled and logged over 8,700 suspects in the investigation.
After 5 years, we got no match, and after 10 years, we got no match, and we just were not getting a hit.
When people have asked whether it worries me that the killer may still be out there, I wave dismissively, pointing out that he'd be much older now. He can't hurt me, I say, not realizing that in every sleepless hour, in every minute spent hunting him and not cuddling my daughter, he already has.
Michelle McNamara was a mom, married to actor Patton Oswalt, investigating this case and working on a book. Patton describes her as staying awake at all hours of the night, would not put down her computer, would not put away the files.
At the same time, struggling with her writing and publication deadlines, and she began self-medicating. I actually see her as being his final victim.
got an email from a friend of Michelle's, and he told me that Michelle had passed away that morning. I think I went completely numb.
I eventually learned that she had fallen asleep and didn't get up.
According to the medical examiner's report, Michelle died from a combination of fentanyl, Xanax, and I believe Adderall. And that's when the magnitude of her loss hit me.
I immediately thought, what can I do? I can help finish this book. When Michelle passed, we decided at the end of the book, what are the strings that she left us to get us out of this maze? It was genetic genealogy.
From the very beginning, I knew DNA was going to solve this case.
Thousands of pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, and only one person knew what it was supposed to look like. That one person wasn't Michelle. It was the killer himself.
It has now been 40 years that one of the most prolific serial killers in American history has managed to elude police. The man known as the Golden State Killer has been linked to 50 rapes and 13 murders. Police are frustrated and running out of leads.
I have no path to go on this investigation. None of the tips coming in are anything that I'm excited about, so I'm floundering.
When Michelle passed and me and Paul were working on the book, we talk about what are the strings that she left us to get us out of this maze. And it was genetic genealogy.
Forensic genealogy was something that Michelle was excited about, and that seemed like the most viable, direct pathway to this offender's identity.
Hi, and welcome to 23andMe.
Companies like Ancestry.com and 23andMe had already been using genetic genealogy for years, allowing millions of customers to spit into a tube and use their DNA to discover family roots and long-lost relatives.
Ancestry.com searches the world's largest online family history research.
As a growing number, particularly of adoptees, are realizing these sites that are really created for learning about family history can help me start to figure out who I'm biologically related to. To help people to find their biological mothers, to find their biological fathers.
How are you?
To find siblings, to find cousins.
It wasn't too long for people to realize, wait a minute, what if we use the DNA of criminals to try and identify their second cousins or third cousins and try to narrow it down from there?
I start learning how this technology could be used. We become blown away at the power of it. And then we recognize this is the way we need to go. But then there was a concern as to whether we had enough DNA. I had consumed all the East Area Rapist DNA, doing all the testing I had done over the years.
And he found a pristine DNA sample going back to the 1980 murder of Lyman and Charlene Smith in Ventura County.
A second sexual assault kit in the coroner's office that had never been opened.
To my knowledge, there are no other medical examiners who make duplicate rape kits.
In March of 1980, Lyman and Charlene Smith were found bludgeoned to death in their bed.
It was a horrific scene that I will never forget. I'd arrive at the scene with my little suitcase, a tube rack, dry ice, and a microscope. I always made duplicate kits, and both kits were identical.
That turned out to be a gold mine for us because that second kit had sat in the coroner's possession for 38 years untouched. And so these swabs collected from Charlene Smith's body were pristine.
Police had been sitting on this genetic fingerprint for 4 decades, waiting for the science to catch up. Genetic genealogy had only been used to solve a criminal case once before by a woman named Barbara Ray Venter.
I've always liked puzzles. I used to love playing Clue when I was a kid. What I've discovered is that law enforcement are pretty big gossips. And so they were all sort of talking amongst each other. And apparently Paul was talking to the detective on the other case.
And I was like, how did you do that? I call Barbara up and I explain, I'm working a case. It's an old case. I don't tell her what case it is, but could this be done to identify this unknown offender?
So Paul Holes was able to take that DNA and convert it into a DNA profile, which is basically a number. And he used this no-frills genealogy website called GEDmatch.
And I just uploaded the Golden State Killer's profile and allowed the GEDmatch servers to do their magic and produce the list of people that potentially shared some DNA with my offender.
We were all logging in several times a day to see if the matches are there.
Then all of a sudden, he started connecting to some distant relatives. We're talking third, fourth, fifth cousins.
So we immediately knew that we were going to be building a lot of family trees to sort out who he was.
We're now trying to identify common ancestors from this list of people who share DNA with the person we're looking for. And we end up spending 4 months building family trees.
And unlike if you were to upload your DNA to a website and try to build out a family tree from yourself being the beginning point, this is reverse engineering a family tree. So you start with a wide swath of potential relatives, and by a painstaking process of elimination, you start cutting down that pool. Narrow it down, narrow it down, narrow it down.
Genealogy testing had indicated that our offender was of European descent.
40% Southern European, and a number of the matches that we had were with people who had Italian surnames.
Once it came down to that final pool, that's when the real detective work began. You had to hit public records. Things like marriage certificates, birth certificates, grave site markings.
So now we only had 6 men on the list. So now they had to be a certain age, they had to be in Northern California, and they had to be related only through the maternal line to our crime scene DNA. And at that point, we then had one other piece of information that we hadn't applied yet, and that was eye color.
She looks at a separate tool on a related site that suggests that their suspect had blue eyes and was bald.
The FBI then pulled the California DMV records for those 6 men. Only one had blue eyes.
Joseph D'Angelo.
Joseph D'Angelo.
Joseph D'Angelo. After 4 decades and countless hours of detective work, it's an emerging technology, genetic genealogy, that finally gives investigators their strongest lead yet, a name.
Who is this guy? I need to start drilling down on him, and I'm now within a couple of weeks of retiring. So I'm trying to find out as much as possible, as fast as possible, about Joe D'Angelo.
He's not in any of the criminal databases, so police start putting together a case to either eliminate him or prove he is in fact the man they're looking for.
Physically, he was within the specs of what we were expecting for the Golden State Killer. Born in 1945, a little bit on the older side, but most certainly within that 1940 to 1960 range.
Investigators started zeroing in on Joseph D'Angelo, and they started digging up things about his past.
He goes into the Navy. We know he is stationed in San Diego. We know that he spent some time overseas.
Joe D'Angelo returned to Sacramento began working with the Auburn Police Department.
He had a nickname on the department. It was Junk Food Joey. He would always have a Coke in his hand, a bag of chips, a candy bar. He really violated people's space all the time. Get kind of close to your face and always be touching you.
He had been fired from Auburn Police back in 1979.
He had been observed shoplifting a can of dog repellent and a hammer from a Citrus Heights drugstore. He was accosted by the clerk. He was subsequently arrested.
Auburn Police Chief Nick Willick had to fire D'Angelo at the time.
And the chief said when Joe was put on administrative leave, he had threatened to kill me.
I immediately remembered back my daughter, you know, being afraid. A short time after he had been fired, she said, there was someone looking in my bedroom window with a flashlight.
She said he got up and ran outside. That man was gone, but there were shoe impressions all around the perimeter of his house.
But there's another huge piece of the puzzle they had been investigating in relation to possible suspects, and that piece also seemingly falls into place in D'Angelo's story, Bonnie.
There's a newspaper clip from an Auburn journal about the engagement, and there's this picture of a young brunette. She's 18 years old.
Announcing his engagement in 1970 to a woman named Bonnie Colwell.
Remember, Bonnie was one of D'Angelo's early girlfriends who broke off their engagement. So suddenly, Detective Holes and others were like, wait a minute, could this be Bonnie that we remember following early on in the case?
And of course, Bonnie was significant due to the victim in attack number 36.
While the East Area Rapist is literally raping that victim, he is crying and he's saying, I hate you, Bonnie, over and over. I'm now within days of retiring. It's like, okay, I've got to go boots on the ground on this D'Angelo.
More and more things connect and click. You know, right place, right time. Let's go see if this is the guy.
I'm now my second to last day at work, and I go, I have to go see this guy, where he's living. And I park on the curb, directly opposite from D'Angelo's house. There's a car in the driveway. I'm pretty sure he's home. And I'm sitting there, and I'm wondering, what's the likelihood, really, that this is the Golden State Killer?
A day before his retirement, Paul Holes literally has the suspect in his crosshairs. It's been a 24-year hunt, but he uses restraint and turns in his badge the next day.
It was a tough decision to drive away from that house that day. I was upset. I was like, you know, I didn't solve this case before I retired.
The Sacramento Sheriff's Office picks up where Paul Holes left off.
And so what they have to do next is conduct surveillance on Joseph D'Angelo. And what they're waiting for is an opportunity to collect his DNA.
And they secretly follow him to a shopping plaza.
But Joseph was not smoking, he was not spitting out gum. So what they had to work with was he had a car, they swabbed the door handle. And that gave them something that's called touch DNA.
They were able to pick up an initial DNA sample and some fingerprints from his car door.
I'm sitting in a Chinese restaurant in Colorado Springs, and my cell phone rings, and it's Lieutenant Kirk Campbell from Sacramento DA's office. You can absolutely not tell anybody about this. And at that moment I go, okay. And he says, the lab is excited about this.
It's mixed with DNA from other people, but it looks like it might be a close match.
But the Sacramento DA was saying, we want a cleaner sample.
So they stake out his house, wait for him to put out the trash.
He puts his trash out on the curb. They get a guy that comes and collects the trash.
They sneak over and pull tissue out of the trash bin and take that back to the lab.
And one of the items out of the trash had a single source male DNA profile that matched 100% the Golden State Killer's DNA profile.
Get this call from my chief deputy. I think his first words are you sitting down? And I asked him a million times, and I'm like, you better not be messing with me. He goes, they're shaking, Anne-Marie. They're shaking at the crime lab.
They got a match. But now they have to get the suspect into custody. So they call Paul Holes back to assist with the operation.
There was concerns about how he would respond if this did not go smoothly.
I can imagine they were prepared for every scenario. This is somebody who has been a sophisticated, a diverse, sadistic killer.
A law enforcement team now gathers outside D'Angelo's home for the takedown. He and his wife have been separated for decades, and he's living with his daughter and granddaughter.
The hope is to get him away from his house in order to be able to do it safely. So at a certain point, D'Angelo's over off to the side of his house. It looks like a prime spot. And then we just hear over the radio, go.
You can run on for a long time, run on for a long time.
He's been called the East Side Rapist, the Visalia Ransacker, the original Night Stalker,
run on for a long time,
and the Golden State Killer. Today, it's our pleasure to call him defendant.
Sooner or later, God will cut you down.
That bombshell arrest, that former police officer.
72-year-old Joseph James D'Angelo.
He's been described as one of the most prolific serial killers that terrorized California for decades.
Sooner or later, God will cut you down.
The arrest of Joseph D'Angelo dropped like a bomb. All these years, hiding in plain sight.
Oh my God, he's living in Sacramento? He's been living there under everybody's noses for all this time? It was stunning.
It's a moment when you realize that 40 years of work by a lot of folks to bring some answers to some family members was becoming real.
It's just unbelievable. After all these years, they got him.
I feel I reverted right back. That part that I was so successful at tucking away in my brain, that door opened. I was shaking.
It was hard to process. I know after I got the call, the tears welled up. Thousands of nightmares and thousands of sleepless nights have come to a rest.
It was just something that was on my mind for all those years. Want him caught before I die.
We could finally put a face and a name to this masked individual that was terrorizing all these communities back in the 70s and 80s.
Joseph D'Angelo's first arraignment in court.
Please make sure your cell phones are silent.
Was a complete madhouse. It was a zoo. In the front rows were family members of victims and victims themselves.
We were all super, super nervous.
I start sobbing and sobbing, and I couldn't stop.
Joseph James D'Angelo.
And then that moment, Joseph D'Angelo in a red-orange jumpsuit that says prisoner on the back rolls in a wheelchair, hunched over, his hands handcuffed.
This is the Golden State Killer? This old man? And he looks so harmless. And I think that is exactly the impression that he wants to create.
Is Joseph James D'Angelo your true and correct legal name? I'm sorry? Yes.
At that moment, you could hear gasps. There was something about his voice that clearly brought back years of pain and fear.
I thought, this has got to be a big act.
In the week prior, he's riding a motorcycle at high speeds. He was walking around just fine.
And within a day of his arrest, he's all of a sudden bound to a wheelchair.
But then the jail surveillance camera tells a very different story.
He's climbing up on the bunks and getting up on the vents and cleaning things.
Doing exercises in the jail cell.
He's a master of disguise. He used that during all of his crimes, and he has continued to use it, but now in a different way.
Victims are still processing it. And the big question, why? Why did he do all of this?
What really did transpire? Why he became this person, this predator?
I think that's the million-dollar question.
Mr. D'Angelo would like to make a brief statement.
I'd like to get into his mind to talk to him and find out what brought him up to where he was.
There is no recipe for a serial killer. We can see all of these markers or all of these risk factors along the way. We have a physically abusive dad.
And a relative reveals a bombshell in that HBO docuseries All Be Gone in the Dark, detailing how Joseph D'Angelo, at the age of 9 or 10, allegedly witnessed his younger sister being sexually assaulted.
She was 7 years old. The very thing that happened to my mother is the very thing that my uncle went and did to other women. How sickening is that?
It would be so easy for us as forensic psychologists if we could kind of go, a person is abused, and therefore they become this kind of offender.
The vast majority of people don't turn into serial rapists and serial killers. So it's hard to feel this sympathy for these offenders or to say that this event made him do it.
Bonnie certainly is not responsible for D'Angelo's actions, and the breakup did not cause those actions.
Sentencing today for the so-called Golden State Killer.
Former police officer Joseph D'Angelo Jr.
committed rapes and murders all across California.
This is the matter of the people's state of California versus Joseph James D'Angelo.
This will be the first time that these people have seen him since the nights that they were victimized.
This is a network of people that have come together that never knew each other, but share one thing in common.
On March 18th, 1978, Joe D'Angelo attacked us while we were sleeping. He kidnapped me from my bed. He raped me repeatedly.
I want you to look at me. You bound my wrist and ankles. You blindfolded me. Remember that?
At 3 different times that night, I thought I was going to die.
No 13-year-old should have to find out what a rape kit is. My family couldn't hide the agony in their faces.
What matters is that you will spend the rest of your life in prison, and I survived.
I just want to tell you, buddy, to rot in hell.
You will forever be known as a repulsive coward who hid behind a mask of evil. The devil can keep you company in your prison cell as he gnaws away at whatever soul you have left.
Mr. D'Angelo would like to make a brief statement.
I've listened to all your statements, and I'm truly sorry for everyone I've hurt.
Mr. D'Angelo is sentenced to a total of 11 life without the possibility of parole sentences, plus an additional life sentence, plus an additional 8 years. The survivors have spoken clearly. The defendant deserves no mercy.
In the end, we may have lost a battle one night, but we've won the war of life. We're nearing the end of a very long journey here.
It shows that justice doesn't have a time limit. You can still find answers decades and decades later if you're willing to do the work. Inside Michelle's computer, she had a letter, and it was her